the sheriff's budget and other budgets, they have expenses from auction, okay, which is fine. But I never care. So, whatever, I don't care. I don't care what it is. Then I see no revenue. Last night, the revenue line, I couldn't find it, but last night, I was so damn tired. My legs, I worked on this for 2 days. Did anyone see anything there?
And we're not changing the
Don't go there. Wait, what time is it?
want to call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order, and the first order of business is roll call.
Kowal? Here. Zach?
Good morning.
Here. Long? Cobb?
Here.
Fleming?
Here.
Crawford?
Here.
Woodward? Bowman?
Here.
Middleton?
Here. Did you call Zach?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I didn't. She's here. Okay. We have a quorum. The next item is pledge allegiance to the flag.
I'll figure it out.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting on August 3rd of 2017. Crawford is moving it, Kowal is supporting it. Any discussion on the minutes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next is the presentation of the agenda. I have no changes to the agenda. If it, I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Fleming and Crawford. So, any discussion on the agenda? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you. Next is public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the Finance Committee this morning? Seeing no one stepping forward, I close public comment, and we will move to the contingency report. Need a motion to receive and file the contingency report. Taub and Fleming. Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Good morning. So we're gonna start on page 1, which is page 3 of your PDF. We have a general contingency balance of $130,922. There are no items on today's agenda that affect that amount. Next, on page 11 of the contingency report, which is page 13 of your PDF, we are using assigned fund balance in the amount of $265,337 for City of Southfield tri-party item, which is item number 1 on your agenda. And then on page 15 of your PDF is the updated West Nile virus distribution report.
Any comments, questions? If not, all those in favor of the, accepting the contingency report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you. We're getting a little more enthusiasm as we went on to these voice votes. That's encouraging. The next thing is communications. I need a motion to receive and file communications A, B, C, and D. Tob is moving it, Bowman is supporting it. Any questions, Tob, on communications?
Yes, if I can find it, just one
Probably
second.
communications A?
Yeah. Wait a minute. No, I know about that. It's, Communications A, Sheriff's Office, are they here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How does this new computer system work? Are there computers in every car?
Are you talking which one? There's two. Talking for the X-ray machine or the accident reconstruction?
Something about tires and road
That's for
friction?
accident reconstruction. It's a computer-based program. The system we have is 15 years old. It's time for it to be
So
upgraded.
you don't have one in every car?
No, this is for the accident reconstruction. It's to reconstruct accidents. It's
Okay.
a computer-based program they use out. I don't know if you saw me, they're out on Woodward 12 Mile the other day, Sister Royal. It's those big yellow tripod things we
I don't
used
know.
to. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's all
okay.
computer-based.
Okay, that's
In the
what-
old days, we used to take tape measures. We don't do that anymore.
Okay, I just was very curious.
Yeah,
Thank-
the system we have is 15 years old, time to go.
Okay,
And it's the same manufacturer.
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So when there's an auto accident, they're called in then?
If it's a serious accident, if it's a fatal or very serious accident, there's potential criminal charges. It has to be a serious crash,
Okay.
not just a regular.
How long does it take, that just, the road is closed for a longer time?
Well, no, actually, this speeds the process up.
Okay.
So, in the old days, we used to have to close the road down, again, tape measures out and all that. This is all, it speeds the process up, and everything's computerized, so you don't have to do things by paper.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on the communications? In either A, B, C, or D? If not, we'll, all those in favor of receive and file signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same, motion carried. Now we're to the consent agenda. Item number 1, Board of Commissioners, tri-party road improvement, for the city of Southfield. I guess we don't have any, Zach, closest thing to Southfield. That's to move the consent agenda. I need a support for the consent agenda. Fleming is supporting it. No discussion, roll call on the consent agenda.
Cowell? Yes. Zach?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Taub?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Woodward?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes, motion carried, thank you. Next is regular agenda, item number 2, Department of Facilities Management, a resolution authorizing the Oakland County Building Authority to finance the new Oakland County radio communication.
That would be more fun. Yeah, why don't you put Bob Gatto on a horse?
Well, sometimes it's like riding in a rodeo.
Rodeos and the cows are expensive.
Can we give you a horse?
Okay, go ahead, Bob. We need a motion, and a support. Fleming and Zach is supporting, so. Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah. What we have here is a resolution that is largely ministerial. When you issue debt in a governmental entity, you have to notice the public that you intend on doing that. And to that end, this resolution does just that. Gives the public the opportunity to object to the issuance of debt if they so desire. The dollar amount we have identified is related not to the rodeo, but to the radio system. And was tied to an earlier memo I issued April 10th when we were discussing the fees for the radio communication and the need to replace the sizable amount of equipment that is going to be required as part of that project. What this does is just prepares us to be able to issue the debt with a step that would be able to be completed easily now. But I would not expect the debt to be issued in some form, in some amount, yet to be determined until sometime next spring. So there's really no rush to this effort, but it does provide you the opportunity then to go forward and issuing the debt at a later date. We can't issue that debt without Finance Committee approval and of course the board. So you'll have a second bite of the apple here. And this is largely ministerial to get the first step in this process behind us.
Okay, any questions? Is that a roll call vote? Yes, okay, call the roll.
Zach?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Woodward?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Caldwell?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item number 3, Parks and Recreation Commission. The Giffel Webster Engineering Incorporated lumber material donation. Need a motion. Cobb is moving it, Crawford is supporting it. Go ahead, Dan.
Dan Stencil, Executive Officer for Oakland County Parks. Mike Donnellan, our Chief of Facilities Maintenance and Project Planning. And Jeff Phelps, our Fiscal Coordinator. This is an opportunity for the park system to enhance its offerings with trails. Trails, hiking, biking, walking are the most sought after activity that the residents of Oakland County would like us to continue to provide. And this is an opportunity that came to us this past May, and Mike can give you the details.
So anything over $10,000 requires BOC approval. We've taken this through our Parks Commission and subsequent committees, and we're on our road to getting approval to receive the $32,000 worth of lumber materials that will be used in future boardwalk projects that we construct in-house with our tradesmen, our carpenters and what over at Parks and Recreation. So
Is this excess excess lumber that they had, or are they, you guys kind of put a list that you'd like and that's what they?
no, actually, we were contacted by Giffords Webster. I was contacted by Giffords Webster since they are our annual contract that we use for engineering, and he indicated that they specified a material on a Inkster MDOT project. And that material did not meet a certain spec for MDOT, so therefore it was rejected, but it was already purchased by the contractor. So Giffords was looking for a way to offload the materials, and they knew that we construct boardwalks in-house, so they contacted me, and therefore that began the process.
Okay. I have Commissioner Cobb and then Fleming.
I just wondered why, and you explained it to Mike. Okay, that's amazing.
Being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, good for us.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Giffords Webster. That's all that needs to be said. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Definitely thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Woodward.
So, I think this is great, but I mean, the question, like, when it didn't meet MDOT's specifications, I am assuming that that doesn't have any bearing on our utilization for it. No, it does not. It's a it's not a faulty product. No, it's a #1 grade beam that we use on our boardwalks, and for some reason MDOT, their use of their boardwalks out there required some special specification for loading for emergency vehicles, and that we do not require.
Yeah, we don't
Okay.
do
Because if we didn't want it, I think the city of Clarkston would.
Oh, I know.
I think there's a lot of
Talking about Commissioner
A mill
Woodward's
race
deck
boardwalk, I
usage.
understand what you're saying.
There you go.
Okay,
Anybody can use it.
any other questions?
Good.
If not, call the roll on item number 3.
Long,
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Tubbs,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Cowell. Yes. Zach. Yes. Middleton.
Yes, item number 4. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next is item number 4, Water Resources Commission, resolution to authorize Evergreen Farmington Sewage Disposal System Middle Belt Transport and Storage Tunnel Bond Series 2017. Need a motion. Tab is moving it, Fleming is supporting it. Go ahead, Sid.
Sid Lockhart, Special Project Manager, Water Resources. This is to help us, so we're gonna end the fiscal year in a positive fund balance within the fund. When these projects are contemplated, beginning to go through a rather long process with the state, and typically they tell us that we have ineligible expenses. In this project, they told our office that everything was eligible, and then once we ended the project, they started digging us and saying certain labor wasn't eligible, contractor expenses weren't eligible, and they just reimbursed us some money. Actually, this was a bigger note, would have been $2.5 million. And we had some contact with the EPA, who actually oversees the State Revolving Loan Fund agency. And just about 3 weeks ago, they actually shook loose another $1.5 million to let this loan amount be $1 million. Normally we have funds up front, and this time the state kind of set us up to say we didn't need those, and so now we're kind of getting on the back end instead of on the front end.
Okay, Commissioner Tom.
Okay, so are you going to do the whole entire Farmington Evergreen thing? I mean, what are you doing to the?
Well, this is for the Middle Belt Tunnel. The Middle Belt Tunnel project is now completed. And
Okay.
so as we move along, we have to spend the money, the state reimburses us back, and we weren't getting the full cost.
That's what, 12 or 11 mile in Middle Belt?
Yeah, the 2.5
Okay,
mile long
so
tunnel.
you're done with it?
Right. Yep.
Okay.
And so the state, so instead of loan amount being 36.6 is what was intended, they ding it back, it was gonna be 30, 35 and change. They keep shorting us every time. Last year it caused a problem, and this is gonna solve the problem for this fiscal year when we close the books.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any other questions? If not, call the roll.
Tubbs,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Cowell. Yes. Zach.
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item number 5, Department of Health and Human Services, Health Division, Comprehensive Planning and Budgeting and Contracting Agreement accepted. Long is moving it, and Zach is supporting it. Thank you. Go ahead.
Morning, Kathy Forsley, Director of Health and Human Services. I have Leanne's.
Go ahead.
Leanne Stafford, Health Officer for Oakland County Health Division. So what you have before you is a resolution for our CPC grant from MDHHS. And this provides funding for more than 20 programs and services in the Health Division, as well as partial payment for what is considered essential local public health funding dollars for mandated services.
Okay, any questions? No questions? Call the roll on item number 5. Boy, you want to hurry up and get to the budget, don't you?
Fleming,
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Cowell. Yes. Zach.
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Tubbs,
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Next is item number 6, Department of Health and Human Services, Health Division 2017 Inland Beach Grant Contract with the Department of Environmental Quality. DEQ project number 2017-7212. Long is moving it, Todd is supporting it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this grant from DEQ provides funding for our inland beach monitoring that we do. We do inspect and monitor water quality at our 40 public beaches, and we rotate through semi-public beaches each year. This year actually 45 public and 30 semi-public. And then we rotate them through on a 3 to 5 year schedule. And this year, there's additional funding in this. DEQ is asking us to do some simultaneous studies where we do additional sampling on these beaches and use a qPCR methodology for testing, which will provide, when it is ultimately adopted and we have significant data that shows that it's as effective as the current methodology, the advantage to this is that it will ultimately provide real-time test results rather than a delay of 18 hours.
I have Cowell, Taub, and then Zach. Go ahead, Eileen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recently, a couple of lakes in Oakland County had an algae problem. They still have it. Is there any talk going on about monitoring lakes for this? Because it's a public health thing, definitely, when that algae appears.
DEQ is currently doing some monitoring in Oakland County. They are doing testing throughout the summer on 5 lakes every week. But in addition to that, they are responding to every complaint and doing testing where a citizen will say, I have an algae bloom in front of my home, can you come test it? And they have.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Taub.
I'm gonna pass, thank you, you answered the question.
Okay.
Thank you, Kate.
Commissioner Zach.
I just want to clarify, it's along that line. So if there's a private, non-public lake and there's algae or something like that, then it's up to DEQ to come in and test it, or does Oakland County get involved in it?
Well, if we get the call, we'll refer it to DEQ if we're talking about algae.
Okay, and if there's other concerns, or it's
We'll
up to the
follow up
public?
on any complaint on any lake, anytime.
Whether it's public or private,
Right.
as long as, okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Taub.
Yes, I don't believe there are any private, the state of Michigan has taken over all the lakes. So I don't believe, even though you don't have public access to a lake, and, you know, there's no docks for people to come in, and all the lakes in the state of Michigan are part of the state of Michigan,
The
period. The waterways,
Yeah,
right.
but
Yeah.
the state didn't take them over.
What?
They've always been.
It's public water.
The water.
I was like,
Well,
The water is
so
always
yes,
been.
the water's always
of the
public. You might not
state,
have a public
but
access to it,
it's
but the water is
land that you have to
public.
walk across, that's still either privately or DNR
Right.
owned. Correct. I'm questioning, the other testing you're doing in, especially with the feds, is that for E. coli, basically, or is there
Yes.
other stuff that you test for?
No, it is, but the difference in this too, is that it does provide the ability to do source tracking.
Okay.
So we can tell the source of the E. coli, whether it be from
Geese.
fowl or, you know, dogs, human, whatever, it will prove to be very useful.
Okay. Commissioner Bowman, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had just a point of clarity on the public beaches versus semi-public beaches. Ultimately, I'm trying to determine how it is you select the beaches or waterways that you're gonna test.
Right, so the public beaches are those that are open to the public. Parks and recreation beaches are public, the state parks beaches are public. I'm trying to think of other examples, but they're very obviously open to the public. But the semi-public public beaches are those that predominantly have homeowners associations or lake board associations, things like that, that are in charge of it, and then that would be our contact to get access to the lake. So it's not one where we can simply get out of our cars and go access it. We usually have to have gates unlocked for us, that kind of thing. So it's considered semi-public in that it is a private association usually that maintains it. However, they might invite guests from the outside to it, so that is how we determine that it's semi-public.
So, but individuals, if they, have a waterway that they would like tested, ultimately they just contact the health department.
Right, and if it's a year that we're not cycling through that particular beach, we're more than happy to help homeowners and teach them how to take those samples, submit them to us, and we'll assist with all the math to that goes behind determining with, the status of that beach.
And so ultimately, this grant is giving you additional funds to do more of that testing.
Correct.
Correct. All right, good deal. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Woodward.
And Kathy, I want to commend you on your work on this. I know we've had long conversations about this topic. And I mean, I think it's also important for everyone to know that like the full cost of doing all of this is not paying for the full cost of it. And there is, because that we are doing this much more comprehensive testing, that the capacity of our lab, I mean, and you mentioned this earlier this week and before when I've talked with you, the capacity of our lab work, because there's so much more, much more rigorous testing, we're at capacity. And
more than capacity.
More than capacity, exactly. And so I think it's important when we're moving forward. I actually, for the budget conversation, I actually have some questions around lab stuff. But it's, I mean, the rigorous, the leadership from this county setting the standard. I mean, hopefully we set the standard on better testing for water all throughout the state is commendable. But also noted that we aren't getting fully reimbursed for the costs that are associated with this, and we should be mindful of that.
Okay.
It's an important thing to do.
Okay. Any other questions on item number 6? If not, call the roll.
Crawford?
Yes.
Woodward?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Caldwell? Yes. Zach?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Taub?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes, motion carries. Next is item number 7, Department of Facilities Management and Health and Human Services, approval and acceptance of a sublease agreement with Easter Seals, Michigan Incorporated, and Oakland County. Taub is moving it, Bowman is supporting it, so, go ahead.
Good morning. Chair here. I'm Paul Zakos with Facilities and Property Manager. In this situation, recall Women's and Infants Children's Program, WIC, was in the old health department building that was sold and closed, and they moved over to the Wall Lake School building and been there for 3-4 years. Wall Lake has decided to close that building, and WIC needed a new home. So we spent some time with the health department finding out where a good space would be. Well, lo and behold, we're going back into the health department building, the old health department building, which is owned by a private party, but Easter Seals had leased, had been there for 3 years, and they had leased. So WIC is co-locating with Easter Seals in that space, and the rents turn out to work quite well with their budget. And actually, they're leasing 4 offices, which is perfect for their size. And then they're sharing the space for their appointment room and the laundry and
Nutrition
nutrition
lab and counseling room.
So the space actually moving out in end of this month, and we'll be moving in September 1st. That's the plan.
And I'd also like to add, this is a tremendous win for us in terms of partnership, and we have had a long talk with Easter Seals and came to the conclusion that we serve a similar clientele, and so we expect to be able to do a great deal of cross-referral work between our agencies, and we're really excited about that.
I see on the agreement that we get 2 tables and 3 laptop computers. No chairs?
That's interesting.
I take it this isn't a totally list of what we're getting in
Right.
this.
Yeah.
There are desks that rise.
They're providing
I
all
mean,
the
sitting is
office,
bad for you.
yeah.
Okay, Chris?
All right, so WIC was right here, right, in the health department down by environmental?
It still is.
Okay, is that gonna remain there?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I didn't know.
Yeah, we have a number of locations.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
they're
I was
also
gonna
in
say
ours,
Wall
Mrs.
Lake,
South.
it's like hard to get to, kind of. So,
Okay.
okay.
We're still in
This
Southfield.
is now, this is an additional location.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
It's the west side look.
Okay, I have Commissioner Zach and then Woodward.
So I want to commend you. I think it makes so much sense, and I know that Easter Seals has the OHEN, the health network, and maybe this opens up the door for some other partnerships.
We're already talking about that.
Okay, great. Glad to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Woodward?
So, so my question, and you went over this and just trying to gather, like, so the space that we had at the old facility, is this a smaller space, but is it smaller because that there's more common areas?
Well, yeah, it's much smaller, but it works out for their staff perfect. So the common area is the waiting room when they come in the foyer, and then the kitchen and space for the copier and all that, so.
So I guess, well, there's two questions, like in terms of the utilization of the space, like how many clients are?
1,700.
1,700?
In that area.
Like, on an annual basis, or is it 1,700 people?
Every month.
So, every month, so 1,700 people. So that's, that's a small space for 1,700 people. Now, that's a bigger number of people than I actually expected.
Well, and we can renew some of their benefits online, so they don't always have to come in every month, but that's what we're
But they're
renewing
servicing,
every month. Yeah.
serving 1,700 people every single month. Is there concern that this is not going to be enough space?
No, I think the flow is absolutely perfect for their needs. It's actually, in my opinion, I guess the proof is in the pudding, but I think, in my opinion, it's going to be much more efficient use of space than what we had previously.
And there's no, this is all ground level, as you know, the old building, so
Which
parking
wasn't-
in the parking lot, walking through the front door is all one level. Where the Walled Lake building had these big long steps to go up, but they did have.
They had
another
an elevator,
entrance,
but it was very confusing, and
So there'll be-
I think there's a lot of benefits to
The old
this.
school with the
Oh,
big
yeah,
front
that's really
steps.
confusing.
That's-
Can't even find the gym in that one.
Okay. And that one, and the last question is like, what were we paying on the previous?
It's about $12 a square foot, and this is about the same. If we,
We're
it's
the same,
actually-
but we're paying,
It's
our
actually
out-of-pocket is
less.
less because we have less space that we're.
It's less, it's a little bit more, but, price per square foot, when we add up the other space, is the same.
Right,
Because
and-
we have to take the space,
We
that
pay
we're
a
sharing.
portion of, yeah, no, I understand that, so this.
And it
wait, so
includes
it's-
office furniture and.
Includes desks, includes phones.
But we're paying more per month than in our previous location.
I think slightly.
Slightly.
Okay, any other questions? If not, call the roll on item number 7.
Woodward? That's all right.
Oh,
yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Cowell? Yes. Zach?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Tubbs? Yes. Fleming?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item number 8, Department of Economic Development and Community Affairs, Community and Home Improvement Division, fiscal year 2017, U.S. Counseling Program, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, Housing Counseling Program Grant Acceptance. Need a motion. Okay, Todd is moving, Fleming is supporting. Okay, next.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Carrie Reed from Community and Home Improvement Division. I have with me Kathy Williams, who is our Housing Counseling Supervisor, and this is her grant.
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning. We're here to ask for acceptance of our Comprehensive Housing Counseling Grant from HUD. It's for $31,771, which is up about $3,000 from last year, and it covers a portion of the salary and benefits. It is retroactive back to last October. We expect to have it totally spent out by September 30th.
Any questions? If not, call the roll on item number 8.
Bowman?
Yes.
Cowell?
Hey,
Yes.
pass that.
Zach?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Tubbs?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Woodward?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, next is item number 9, Facilities Management, Facility Planning and Engineering, Children's Village A and J Fencing Project. Need a motion. Todd is moving it, Zach is supporting it. So.
Good morning.
Morning.
The Children's Village campus, as I'm sure you all know, houses juveniles that have either gotten in trouble and they're in the detention facility in J&A, or they've been taken out of their homes. because of problems with parents or whatever. It's obviously a very sensitive area of the campus. Right now, it's also a very open area of the campus. The design was purposeful because you want to have more of a friendly and inviting environment to help the children. At the same time, though, because it borders Telegraph on one side and Waterford Oaks on the other side, we do get people that, members of the public that do cross the campus, the Children's Village campus, which is not good. We also have inmates and people from community mental health that are released at all times of the day and week. And on occasion, they do make it over to Telegraph and sometimes across Telegraph. So this project is meant to help deter people from coming over to the Children's Village campus from the Telegraph side. It would install a decorative 6-foot fence, black aluminum, 1,350 feet from the Waterford Oaks tree line to the north to the entrance to the Children's Village campus in the south, $78,000, and I'll open it up to any questions that you might have.
And we have a drawing in our packet.
$75,800, excuse me.
Any questions? If not, go ahead. Call the roll.
Okay. Koa?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Cobb?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Woodward?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes, motion carried.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman?
you. Next is,
Mr. Chair.
oh, Commissioner Woodward.
Yeah, thank you.
Back on the fencing?
Maybe on the fencing thing, yeah.
Okay.
No, this was like just a question. I mean, it's, when we said, like, I know, I mean, I was gonna vote for it. I mean, the security issue, I mean, is valid. When we said decorative fencing, right, how decorative? Because
It's
if this
sort-
looks like a prison, I will take
no.
my vote back.
No, this is similar to what you would
It's a
typically
site.
see in someone's backyard. It's a black aluminum, vertical slats, crossbars on the top. It doesn't, you know, there's no pointed,
No
you
barbed
know,
wire.
No razor
crow's
wire on
fingers
the
with sharp points on the top or anything like that. And then we're gonna, exactly, we're gonna be doing some nice landscaping, flowers and bushes and all along the fencing as well. We wanna make it more integrated with the campus environment at the same time that it's a physical and psychological deterrent from people crossing over. Now, if someone wanted to cut through the trees or go around by where the road commission is, they could still get over there, but psychologically, you know, 95% of that whole space is gonna be blocked by this fence, and there'll be appropriate signage put up, similar to what we've started putting up around the IT and the annex. That says, look, you know, this is not meant for public access, and you could be charged with trespassing if you do cross this line, so.
Have we thought about, I'm sorry, like, also like displays of public art or something to make it?
Because it's.
That's a, I mean, it's a long fence.
It's
gonna be a
exposed to
long-
Telegraph, right?
Yes.
It's gonna be a very long fence.
It goes through the pine trees, doesn't it?
It goes to,
It's by the pine trees.
That are
I
currently
get- yeah, I
along
know.
Yes.
Telegraph.
I think
yes.
you hear my point, that it aesthetically, going the extra distance to make this aesthetically more pleasing, just given, I mean, we're working with a very vulnerable population, and I don't want to psychologically be affecting them.
I agree 100%. I'll talk to my grounds folks and we'll make sure that we're handling that stretch of Telegraph very well. Hopefully you've noticed on the campus over the last year and a half that we've been adding more flower beds, both on the east and west campus. That's due to the new chief that we have. He's been doing a great job for us, and we're gonna continue to do that, so.
Okay. Commissioner Zach,
I just want to quickly add an idea that they've done in Southfield. An art teacher was taking photos of the students and blowing them up and laminating them and putting them in exterior spaces. And it was actually very friendly and inviting, and at, you know, lower cost to do something like that periodically. And engaging the children in the project.
Okay. Kathy and Jody are both here, so I'm sure they'll give that thought some further consideration. So.
Okay. Commissioner Woodward, you didn't want to reconsider the vote? that-
No,
Because
no,
we've
no.
already voted
We
on
already
this
voted.
issue.
No, I did
And
not.
Commissioner Zach, you didn't want to reconsider?
No.
Okay, that's why I
Right,
left
yeah,
it
no,
back.
it just moved faster, and then
Yeah,
but, okay.
Okay, we've already voted on item number 9. Now we're on item number 10, Department of Facilities Management 2018 to fiscal year 2027 Capital Improvement Program. And we have a blue sheet on that. And if you get to item number 1, Parking Lot Paving Program, project total, the last 3 numbers were inverted. Rather than, as it was printed, 042, it's really 402. So if you substitute that 402, then all your numbers add up and everything. So it's just a typographical inversion. So. Okay, so now we have item number 10. I need a motion to accept item 10 as printed on the blue sheet. Fleming is moving it, Taub is supporting it. Go ahead.
Yes, the blue sheet's very important because without that additional $360, this whole plan would have fallen apart. So every year we create a new 10-year capital improvement plan. Capital is the key word. All the projects that are included in here involve the purchase of some physical asset that is being installed in a building, on a campus, and the building projects and the civil projects listed on the left side of the summary page, this page right here, list the categories of what those capital assets are the sort of projects that those capital assets are included in. I won't go through all 17 of those in terms of what's included, but I wanted to point out a few things. The capital improvement plan tends to be each year a bit front-loaded. That reflects the fact that we're dealing with certain high-priority projects that we want to deal with in a shorter period of time rather than a longer. Line item 5, the building security enhancements being a perfect example of that. That's the largest single project total in the sheet, but you'll notice that after 2 years it goes down to 0. There are the other 3, the next 3 highest dollar line items, the roof replacements, environmental systems, and parking lots, reflect the other type of project that we deal with in the CIP, and that is recurring, ongoing maintenance and replacement of physical infrastructure and assets. So the roofs and the parking lots are pretty self-explanatory. Environmental systems are HVAC, boilers, chillers, air handlers, which are pieces of equipment that periodically just have to be replaced because they're worn out. In that case, you'll see that those dollars are pretty evenly spread out over all 10 years because, again, you're constantly, chasing your tail a little bit there in terms of trying to get all those things done. Because of the recession that we went through, a lot of those recurring maintenance projects were stretched out to conserve the dollars. So to some degree, we're playing catch-up. I think if you were to walk around all the parking lots, you might reasonably say that this parking lot really ought to be done sooner, repaved sooner than what's in the plan, and that's because, well, we are playing catch-up, but we still have limited dollars that we're working with. If you flip quickly to the second page, regarding the limited dollars, I just wanted to point something out. We are constantly trying to stay within the dollar amounts that we have available for the capital improvement plan, dealing with the high priority items as best we can while handling all the maintenance and replacement line items over time. You'll see that in year 2020, the available fund balance actually drops to less than $500,000, but we're in positive territory all 10 years. All right, so that's the secondary goal. The first goal is to get the most important projects done. The second goal is to stay in a positive balance. And by the end of the first 5 years, going into the second 5 years, we want to still have a healthy fund balance. And I think we've accomplished that here. And at this point, I'll just open it up to any questions that you might have.
Okay, I had a comment on here about the new judge, a new judgeship coming in a couple years. What's it? It's not a capital improvement that we have to do for that courtroom?
If you go to the third page, the future projects, and just bear with me for a sec.
What's the PDF number?
Yes, fourth one down, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
For the 2019 additional judge, they already have the space. They already have the space, we don't need any space.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
Right, there is an existing courtroom that can be used for the next judge.
Okay.
Is it,
In the
that's
future.
that's not what the visiting judge is using currently?
The visiting judges are using that, but they plan on reducing the amount of visiting judges when the new judge comes on board. So that courtroom will be used for the new judge.
Okay, renovation for additional circuit judge. I see, okay.
Yeah,
Good
that
enough
would
then.
that would be for the next potential judge that comes on board. And we've been carrying that in the future list for some time to make note that someday we are gonna have to build a new courtroom.
Okay, any questions? If not, call the roll on item. Dave Woodward's comment.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodward.
My favorite part of the budget process. Quick question. So I know we've had this conversation about indigent defense. We know that a piece of that is directly more facility space to be created. I don't see that captured in here, or is it reflected? And I don't. Is it captured in one of the lines under here? It's
No,
not
it's
at
not
all
in,
captured.
it's not in the capital plan at this point, no.
By statute, is supposed to fund any renovations. So we will do that when they provide the funding.
At least at this time, we're not looking at any renovations to the courtrooms. We've got 3 renovation areas. The jail video arraignment area. Clarkston Court is gonna be one that will be paid for, 52.2, I think, and we're looking at circuit court down in some of the holding cells left for some renovations. But actual courtroom, no renovations, even in Clarkston. It's the holding cell area that's gonna have to be redone, and some changes in some other space is gonna have to be made, but not a courtroom.
Yeah. And the cost of those renovations will not be significant. It's very isolated at this point. Those 3 things that Malcolm just mentioned will not be significant.
I was like, not the thing I just mentioned.
I disagree with him on the video arraignment area. We got a lot of work to do. So.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Still. Okay. And those are reflected.
No.
So
we
wait.
will be submitting a request for a grant to the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission on November 20, and if approved, then we'll get grant money from the state of Michigan to fund the renovations in all 3 locations.
Okay.
And at the time that this document was published, when it was prepared for the recommended budget, there were not project estimates available at that time, or it wasn't determined what renovations exactly. This budget does not include funding to voluntarily accept the responsibility of the state.
Okay. So, first, creating private meeting space for clients, meeting with lawyers is something we should be doing. I mean, regardless of the state telling us to do it, we should be doing this. That is good public policy. That is, I think, something we should be. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't bear that cost. I think the state should be paying for that. I support that. That being said, I mean, there are other things that are listed that we don't anticipate doing long and maybe long into the future. There, I mean, on the wish list, and the fact that we have that information, and especially since we spend time of these are cost considerations in the budget, and as we have acquired some idea of what these things cost, it would seem to me that it would be I would like to know what those costs are when we at.
But the state won't pay for the studies required to estimate costs.
Right.
We are moving forward with some of the studies for the 3 locations. We've already got an architect on board. He's taken a look at a couple of the areas. I think 2 of the 3 areas we should have some estimates from architects, mechanical engineers, and some electrical engineers, relatively soon. That will go into our plan, which will be submitted to, the Indigent, Defense Commission, and the due date is November 20.
But we have no intention of putting in the capital outlay because we have no intention
No, we're gonna
of doing
wait.
anything
When they give us the
that would
grant,
improve
we
justice in
will
this
then
county.
move forward.
That's not what it says. If it goes in to the construction project, so would the revenue from the state. So it would be a net effect of zero.
Of zero, right.
When they give us the grant, we will
Exactly.
start moving
So
forward.
this is where the public policy question for me comes into place. There are certain things we should be doing that are good things to do. Now, you have to do them in the constraint of the budget, and that's, I mean, and some things are higher priority than others, and there are a lot of things that are outlined here, and some have been on the list for a considerable amount of time. But some of these things make sense to do, and we have an idea that they are on the horizon, and I understand I mean, litigation's pending, but it doesn't take away the fact that these are good things to do, and we should be doing them. And again, I'm disappointed that the plan is not to, when we get that information, to incorporate it into this. Because I personally think we should be, because it's the right thing to do. And I think we do it when we figure out a way to have the resources to do it, or otherwise required.
Well, Malcolm and Bob have explained how the funding is going to handle.
I
But you'll
understand that.
notice, based on what Malcolm just said, that there's only 3 areas that do have to be renovated, and that's because the courts are doing a good job of providing meeting space, private meeting space for attorneys and their clients now. Malcolm toured all the courthouses. They made a determination with the state liaison about what areas need additional spaces or change spaces, and those were the 3 that Malcolm identified.
Which, again, comes back to things that we should be doing. And I mean, I will stand with the administration on getting the state to pony up, but we should know what those things are, and it should be captured and reflected in here, because we make reference in it in the summary of the budget page, like, these are all things on the horizon, these things can, throw this budget into peril. Slight exaggeration. To me, this is really important. I mean, it's important to me, it's important, I think, again, it's important to justice in this county. And I realize that, again, everything on here, we don't have a funding source tied to yet. And if we're looking at capital outlay, these are appropriate things. Otherwise, it's gonna come through some.
There aren't all funding sources noted on here, whether it's coming from assigned fund balance or the building improvement fund.
All right.
The future projects don't have an identified.
That's what I'm talking about. That's, yes, the ones up above, the future projects do not yet, because till we have it, we're not gonna be able to do it. The next question, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Okay.
So I was gonna bring, I was gonna bring it also up in some of the budget hearings, but it's related here. In the process of developing this, do we ask all departments, basically, what are all your capital outlay needs? So there's needs and wants, right? And you go through a very good process of laying out these are the priorities and give us a good give us a long-term vision of what the capital needs are. Do we? So that's.
Yes,
I guess
every winter I reach out to the departments.
And we get a compiled list of everything.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I go through those and do my first pass of prioritizing. Then I go to administration, and together we take another pass of prioritizing. Then we look at the funding, and we work everything out so that, again, we're keeping positive fund balances in every year. Then it's included in the recommended budget in June, and then it's presented to you.
Great. So related to that, and I think it was mentioned just in a previous item, like our lab testing facilities are pretty overstretched. We're beyond capacity. Some of it is some of the additional testing that we're doing relates to some of the water, beach and water, lake testing stuff. But I imagine it's also other STD testing and a whole variety of things, that there's a lot of utilization, and my understanding is that we maybe need more space for that. I guess, has that been part of the conversation at all? Okay,
I'd like to
I don't wanna throw Kathy, it's like, so Kathy didn't say, we need this. But,
She's not bashful.
no, but I'm just saying, like, based on like my observation, I think it's like something we should be actively considering, so I guess, I mean, however we can throw something into the pot, I mean, on the list.
Go
I'd
ahead,
like to
Kathy.
explain that, when we talked about, the extra studies we're doing for the inland beach monitoring, and I said we're over capacity. This is for a short period of time, and we do have the ability, well, you know, it's a 3-year thing, but we do have the ability to freeze samples, and then we can come back at it when we're at this is a very peak season for us with pools and beaches and that kind of thing. We have workarounds for all of that. And to build something based on what we're doing for a limited time would not make sense. When we hope to move to this new methodology, it will greatly reduce the time it takes to run those samples. Also, we're doing extra SCD testing right now because we're doing some studies that we're being paid for. And that is also for a finite period of time. So it's sort of a perfect storm of studies going on there right now, but we're finding ways to work around that. And we don't intend for that to go on long term. So I have no indication that this would go on after the study period.
So the study period, we're talking years though. I mean, that would be
Yeah,
short term, we're
but-
not taking just like a few months, we're talking
Once
3,
again,
5
once we
years.
get through the summer, then we're really just focusing on the SDD portion of it, and then we can pull some of these samples out of the freezer and run them, and we should be okay.
Okay.
I hear that, I hear that and I appreciate that. I also know that if we were to test every lake in Oakland County, that okay, we just had a conversation about lake problems. I strongly believe we should be testing more of them, and we don't, in part because we don't have the capacity to do it.
Okay, and they talked about, that's what Kathy answered you. Anything else, Dave?
No.
Okay, Commissioner Top.
You know, I've been here for some period of time. I've never seen a bashful director of any department. If they think they need something, they are everybody. They get into somebody and say, or they nag Art to death. So, yeah, and you prioritize. So if Kathy in particular, she's not bashful. I've known her a long time. She'll ask for whatever she needs and work around it. So that's
Okay.
just my personal opinion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions on item number 10? If not, call the roll.
Zach?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Cobb?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Woodward?
No.
Wellman?
Yes.
Cowell? Yes. Middleton?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Next is, if there's no other business, we're gonna go into, the budget hearings. And so we'll recess for a minute to go to the restroom and stuff, and then we'll.
Assumption that we have the updated amendment list was in your packet. The only items that were added were items that were approved by the Board of Commissioners in the last board meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
And so that's part of our package.
Do you want?
Yeah. Do you want? That's part of our.
It's one in your packet.
Yeah. Oh, we need to receive and file it? Okay. I need a motion to receive and file the budget updates, the amendment updates. Commissioner Crawford and Long.
Who's never on the plan?
Not to receive and file, voice vote. All those in favor of receiving I need a motion I need a vote on to receive and file the amendment updates. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Okay, now take a restroom break and then we'll start in about 3 or 4 minutes. I'd like to have our meeting come back to order as soon as we can get a quorum.
Yeah, we're lucky.
Thanks
again for all your help.
Yes, we do.
We're very high maintenance, you know that.
Okay, I want to call the finance meeting back to order, and we're on budget, and treasurer is first, and Andy's at the head of the table, ready to start. And Jamie, we want to get started. Turn up volume. Go ahead. Okay. Andy, go ahead. Budget hearings and treasurers is the first thing, and we've already spent 5 minutes of your time, so we'll make it up at the end if you need it. So, okay, go ahead.
Despite my reputation, I'll be brief.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very much for this opportunity to be with you this morning. I'm Andy Meisner, the Oakland County Treasurer. I'm joined by my Chief Deputy Treasurer, Jody Weissler Defoe, as well as Ross Gavin from our office and Fred Miller. First, as I said, I know it's a full agenda, so I want to be succinct. And next, I'd like to say that we agree with the executive's proposed budget for the Treasurer's Office for 18 through 20. We are not requesting any substantial changes or requests. This is a continuation budget to maintain our office operations, to administer the collection of delinquent taxes, administration of the delinquent tax revolving fund, our annual land sales, as well as our banking function and local government investment pool, many of which your local communities participate, and I do have those numbers today to go through. We have good news to report in that real property delinquencies continue to decline, heading in the right direction. We saw a high of $155 million turned over from our 61 local communities back in 2010, and this past year that is down to $66.5 million. So a dramatic decrease, which is not to say that there still aren't some folks suffering and many people that we're still doing payment plans with, but thank goodness the numbers are improving. We see that also in the number of properties that we're required to bring to our land sale, which we just did last month, and that peaked back in 2012 with 1,650 properties that were brought to the land sale, and this past year that number's down to 478, and so we're really glad, and if we work ourselves out of a job, then so be it. But the land sale, as well as seeing good declines, has generated $38 million in net proceeds for the county since 2010, and helping to be a little bit of a buffer during your difficult budget discussions. I had the pleasure of being with Commissioner Taub, who is the MAC president, recently at a NACO conference. I want to really congratulate the couple of the winners from Oakland County. There's a fantastic autism program that was recognized as a best in category, and our partnership with local realtors, whose help we've solicited to assist us in connecting tax foreclosed properties with families who are going to live there, send their kids to the local schools. We call it the Realtor to the Rescue program, and it won a distinction in the community and economic development category of NACO. The percentage of taxpayers in Oakland County who are able to pay their taxes on time continues to improve as well. That figure right now is about 97%. So it's all the work that my capable team does collecting the delinquent taxes, interestingly, is only for, you know, about 3% of the county population. As you know, we manage the investments for the county, and our investment portfolio continues to perform well. We are in a rising rate environment, which is, as a no surprise to anybody. We had a lot of lean years there, where we still outperform the benchmark, but as interest rates go up, we will be able to experience some of that increase, as will the local government investment pool participants that participate. Berkeley joined on. They've got about $1 million with us. They're a little bit newer. They have made about $3,500. Not a huge sum, but better than nothing. And you compare that with, say, Waterford, who's been in the program for a lot longer. They right now have about $22 million with us. Waterford's made about $1.5 million in interest income by participating in our local government investment pool, which was started before I ever got here, but we've maintained it. We've increased participation from 13 communities to about 47. And so there's a lot more locals participating, as well as some library and fire boards as well. I want to acknowledge the great work of Natalie Neff, my investment administrator, and her team for that. Just name a couple others. Clarkston has made about $25,000. Independence Township has made $152,000 in investment income with us. Commerce Township, about $1.9 million. And Novi, over $1 million. Pontiac, about $235,000. They got in a little bit more recently, but we're glad that they're generating a little bit of extra return. The Delinquent Tax Revolving Fund continues to be a robust and able to fulfill its statutory requirements. We did do a borrowing this year, as we've done each year, of $25 million, and we were very happy that we got an interest rate of about 1.42, 142 basis points, and but we're able to generate some positive arbitrage there with the placement of that in a CD at 170. With that, I will happily entertain any questions.
Yeah, well, I got Tom on the list, but I'm going to take it out before that. On page 185 of the book, is that going to mess you guys up?
No, we're good.
And I have account number 730751, foreclosure notification. And in the past, in 16, it was 367. In last year's budget, and continuing is 435. That tells me, are you notifying more of foreclosure? And I was hoping foreclosures, we talked about the lands going into foreclosure being down. Why is that number up?
Yeah, that number is suggestive of a different trend than what I've identified.
Okay.
And strangely, we've seen some increases. That just refers to the number of interested parties that we're notifying that there is a delinquency. And so it correlates very loosely to the end number, that 400 and change of actual foreclosures. But what we're seeing is an increased ability to pay.
Okay. So they're notified and they pay up before we get into the foreclosure.
Yeah.
That structure.
And I think as the property values have come back as strongly as they have, they're in a better kind of equity position in the house. And so even though we're notifying more people, the message is getting through and they're having the ability to pay.
Okay, good.
But that is one to keep an eye on.
Yeah. So, Commissioner Topp.
I have a couple of questions. Thank you for your presentation, Andy.
Thank you.
On charges for services, payments other than anticipated, what would that be?
What payments
I'm
other
sorry,
than
page
anticipated?
184, and it's line 631645.
Yeah, payments other than anticipated is our land sale proceeds. And
Okay.
so when we're required to sell these properties at auction, under the current state law, if we sell the property for more than the amount of delinquent taxes that are owing, under the current law, those proceeds go to the county. So
Okay.
that is the $38 million over since 2010 that we talked about. It's revenue that comes to the county that is then used to, you know, as the budget makers, what you deem appropriate.
Okay,
Wait,
may I
Andy, and I
follow
want
up,
to
please?
expand on that. The sale of the property goes back to the tax, oh, no, we paid the taxes, so it goes into our.
Yeah. On March 1st, after a year of not paying taxes, when your locals turn those delinquencies over to our office, if, you know, if Addison Township says, hey, we've got $1 million in delinquencies, at that point, we use the delinquent tax revolving fund to write them a check for $1 million.
So they're held whole.
They're whole.
We then pursue a 28-month process of trying to collect. If we don't get it from the taxpayer and we're required to go to Plan B, which is the sale, if we sell the property at auction, they don't have to pay back that amount that we fronted them.
Okay.
And so that's part of the urgency for why we put so much effort into selling these properties, because you know, those local budgets are in tough shape. They're experiencing the same hit from Lansing, same interplay with Proposal A and the Headley Amendment. And so if we can avoid that chargeback is the term, then we're thrilled to do it.
Okay, come in, go ahead, continue.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Line 670114 on page 184. You have quite a large cash overage. And then if you flip over to the next page, on page 185, you can see on line 730240 a cash shortage. Can someone explain to me how you can have a cash overage and a cash shortage at the same time?
Yeah, so we do, if somebody pays more than $5 or pays less than $5, they basically don't get a refund, or we don't send a bill for 30 cents, say. So that's a line that just kind of flushes back and forth within that $5 plus or minus.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so sometimes it's positive and sometimes it's negative.
Okay.
$1,500.
And then we have a line right below that, 730373 contracted services.
Yep.
And that's our.
Thanks, Jody,
maintenance.
Beth.
Right.
Yep.
So, under the law, on April 1st, when of the third year, when the properties are tax foreclosed, at that point they come under the stewardship of the county. And if there is a swimming pool that's full and poses a hazard to the neighborhood, then at that point it's my job to get there and to cover it, fence it, make sure that kids can't get to it. And so part of that expenditure is us sending a contractor out on April 1st to assess the condition of these properties, to start by doing any health and safety emergency measures. And then we cut the grass. You know, if there's the door is open, we have to board the door. These are the types of expenses that are covered under that. And then for the Realtor to the Rescue program, if I'm convinced that I can get a good return on the investment, then we might spend a little bit extra to sweep out the property, trash it out, as a lot of times there's a lot of stuff in there, and just kind of pretty it up a little bit so that we have a good chance of getting a family that is interested in purchasing it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we robbed 5 minutes from you at the beginning, and you're keeping us ahead of schedule, so thank you very much, Andy.
Oh, and I'm sorry,
Okay.
one more thing if I may. I want to take a moment to recognize our new budget analyst, great work. Lakita is working with our office. We're very difficult, as you guys all know, and she has, she's picked it up really well, and so thank you to you and your team for your help with the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Next, we have water resources. So,
Water I got water resources here.
Water resources. What pages are we on for water resources?
194.
194. Yeah. Has everybody got one of these pages that gives us our numbers? Yep. Okay. Okay, Jim, go ahead.
Good morning. First of all, I want to introduce my folks here. Steve Korth, I probably all met before. He's one of my managers. Does a lot of the capital and planning and anything to do with drains. Rafael Chirola does budgeting, rates, finance, all the things around that. And oh, there he is. Ben Lewis is one of my newer managers. He does operations and maintenance for all our operations. So. First of all, I want to talk about a few things that are going on in my office and what we've been doing. Here we have an award we just won. It's a national award from the American Council of Engineering Companies. This is their 50th anniversary, and we won the grand award winner for the infrastructure renewal category for our Oakland-Macomb Interceptor. This is a project that we're finally finishing up this year. It really started in '09. It's a $170 million project. It's very innovative. We've used the first time, these are up to 100 feet underground pipes that we've lined with something called Hobus pipe, which should last 75, 100 years without any serious issues. So this is something that was the result of catastrophic failures back in 2004 over Macomb County in part of our OMID system. We kind of swallowed a little bit of a neighborhood, and so once we realized that, the whole facility, the whole miles of tunnel were in very bad shape. So we in Macomb County worked together on this, serving 800,000 people in the two counties. So this is a very important facility that we won an award for very advanced technology that we're using. We're also doing Pontiac. Since I came in the office, we took over the Pontiac system. It was in just horrible shape. From just this month, there was an article. Over 50% of the water system and over 40% of the sewer system is over 80 years old, which means it's exceeded its life expectancy. We are fixing this water, this infrastructure, both the collection systems, the distribution of water, and the wastewater treatment plant. The wastewater treatment plant, we're having a groundbreaking for a major project, a $40 million project that's going to be shared by 13 communities in the area that will receive this water and treat it. And it's several things. It's going to help save money for all the communities, including Pontiac, a tremendous amount of money for Pontiac. It's going to use the facility that has not been used properly or for the full value for many, many years. And it's going to help flow in the Clinton River because we'll be able to increase flow, and that's always been an issue in the, around the recreation in the river. So we received a $2 million state grant to investigate all the systems. We've already investigated 20% of the Pontiac system. With this, the sewer rate increases and water increases this year combined, we're a little under 4%. So we're doing all this work, but we're not hitting the community too hard because we understand that it's an economically disadvantaged community. So we have to make these repairs, but we're doing it in a way that's going to have the least impact on the ratepayers. We're also replacing almost 20,000 meters in Pontiac. This is a program that the older meters weren't recording right. For many years, the city and the contractor they used had been estimating bills, so it has been wildly fluctuating over the years, and we're changing that. This is going to be much more accurate. We'll be able to identify leaks in homes and notify people. It's going to be a much better system. This is something that we've been working on now for a couple of years, and it's going to take the full 20 years to actually pull all these together and have this system where it should have been years ago. So we will have a system that is overwhelmingly within the life expectancy of the system, so we will have a much more efficiently operating system, and we're looking forward to that. Finally, we're on Channel 4. We've been covered recently in news. A few weeks ago, almost a month ago now, we had a sewage backup in Farmington Hills that it impacted about 14 homes. This was the result of fats, oils, and grease. We have a large fats, oils, and grease education program, and we actually put the Channel 4 news story on our website because it was a very in-depth and very well-done story on how we can prevent these kind of things. These have a huge impact on our ratepayers because every time this happens, we have to spend money to clean it up, and it's always fairly expensive to do. It's something that is very common. People dump grease down their sinks, and this is something that causes huge problems and millions of dollars for our system over years. to repair these things and to clean out pipes. So everything we can do around education is very important, and that's one of the things we have a very strong focus on, and we're going out to communities to talk about that. So we're ready to talk about anything you'd like to speak of for this budget, and ready for questions.
Commissioner Taub and then Commissioner Colwell.
When I look budget on page 194, it looks like it lists only one salary. Page 194 under
General budget?
expenditures. Yeah, is that just one salary?
Right, this
Okay.
is, the general fund is, everything else comes out of our systems.
Okay. I understand that, yeah. Okay, so then we have lots of expenses that obviously are not all one person's expenses, such as travel. Is that for the entire group? Well, why isn't travel expended, or not travel, but conferences and such, they're not expended in
No,
projects?
if they are chargeable to projects and or proprietary funds, they are. So if you look at the internal support section, there's a line called drain equipment and labor.
What line number are you on, Lynn?
771638. So there are salaries that do impact the general fund for like soil erosion and that.
Okay.
Those get charged back from the drain equipment fund to the general fund through an internal charge.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then I had one other question. Okay, you just said that in doing the Pontiac project, you want to have the least impact on ratepayers, so who's going to pay the bill?
No, we're doing it in a way that's gonna impact them the least. What we're doing is we're doing the day-to-day, of the water and sewer systems, we're trying to do as much as we can through rates, rather than borrowing, because borrowing adds costs, and interest costs over time, which is significant. For the larger facilities, like what we're doing, the big project we're doing at the wastewater treatment plant, that's done through bonding, because that's a major facility, it's a one-time project. We're doing this, we're trying to do it as efficiently as we can. We brought in, like I said, for the wastewater treatment plant, we brought in a $2 million principal forgiveness for the loan, because we're using high green infrastructure facilities now. We're using, what we're doing is we're gonna be able to produce 3 or 4 times as much methane as we're producing now and potentially sell it on the market. So this is the kind of thing that can bring back rates over time. I mean, not lower rates, but let rates increase less, because we'll be able to use this stuff more efficiently. We'll be able to, we won't be paying dumping charges for the solid waste. There's a lot of things that we're gonna be doing that are gonna save the ratepayers a tremendous amount of money.
Now, on Farmington Evergreen, is it just those 5 communities that are impacted on that, those bonds that we just did a few minutes ago? Or are there parts of Bloomfield Township or parts of other communities?
Yeah, the bonds we did this morning, the earlier item, was just for the Middle Belt Tunnel project with the 4 communities.
Okay, so nobody in Bloomfield Township that borders there will be impacted on their rates?
Correct, not on what we worked on this morning,
Okay,
correct.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any other questions for Jim? Yes, go ahead, Eileen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since you brought up the Macomb Oakland Interceptor, how are the pumps working there? I understand there's like 4 pumps, and at one time there was
We were down
maybe-
to 1.
Huh? You were down to 1?
They were down to 1 at one point.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how many pumps are working.
Right, I think one's out of service for recommissioning, but we don't have a crisis anymore. We've done the repairs that were necessary and coordinated with the Great Lakes Water Authority staff. So we don't have the crisis that we've faced before with the pumps failing on that issue anymore. So.
Okay, Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seems so far away. So one thing I want to come back to, like the public education piece, and so I mean, I think people don't realize it's like out of sight, out of mind. It's like just get off my counter, out of my griddle, and it's someone else's problem to deal with. And so the public education piece, and just given how expensive this infrastructure is and how fragile that it is, and we know about our very own Bob Gatto has like helped, and we do the assessment of like what the cost, like what the infrastructure cost is needed in the state to be able to bring up to scale, and the numbers are mind-boggling. So from a public education point of view, can you speak a little bit, is like where in the budget is that happening? Is there a way to get additional resources through other channels? How do we up that education piece? And I know a lot of people get water bills either electronically or in the mail. It's not a topic that people are going to go out of their way to want to learn about the things that that will inconvenience their life, but it's absolutely critical to the cost savings of all of us, but to the integrity of our fragile infrastructure as it currently exists.
No, it's true. And so education, we have some budget money for education. I also do work with a nonprofit that we've developed that does a lot of the work around that. We sponsor watershed festivals at Oakland University, for the Clinton River, at Cranbrook Science Museum for the Rouge River. We actually, between those two, we bring in almost 3,000 kids a year to talk about that, and then they go home and pester their parents.
Right.
And
one of
they
the best
really do, and
strategies.
it works. And my kids were young, but anyway. So we also do a lot of we do things like put things in bills, notices, because whenever the communities that we do billing for, we can put messages in them. We often do that kind of thing. I do talks wherever anybody I'm invited, and I talk. That's one of the major things I talk about. We could always do more if there's any way of reaching out more. I'm always open to do that. We're very interested in education, whether it be about immediate problems like fat soils and grease, or the larger scale, issues around the infrastructure we need to work with. So
great. Well, and the second thing is I know something that you have championed in the town hall meetings that you've held, and the importance of green infrastructure, and it's kind of like this thing. The goal, to keep that first inch of water when it rains. Today's a great day to talk about it. I know, like when it rains, the Water Resource Commissioner office gets nervous. But especially when it comes to redevelopment. But like, what are the things that local communities and frankly private developers can be doing to help capture and keep as much of that water on the surface before it runs through our combined sewer systems?
No, exactly. That's whether it's combined or separated. We need to do as much as we can to limit the water that gets into that system. If it's combined, we have these overflows and the combined sewer overflow operations like George W. Kuhn. But when it's coming off the street, it just goes right into a drain, and there's no kind of treatment or anything. So whatever we're doing with stormwater, we need to do it better. This has an impact on our surface waters. This has an impact on Lake St. Clair. We've seen just recently several Oakland County lakes have been hit by algae and by bacteria. So these are the kind of things we have to watch out for, and that's what we're working on.
Right. Well, and I've been looking through this budget process and been toying around. some ideas of figuring out how can we strengthen partnership with local communities to help catalyze more of this. Whether it's pilot projects or other types of infrastructure things, to make sure that this stuff is incorporated more to achieve this this goal. And so.
Well, we're working with the local communities. They're very interested in this, especially the GWK communities, because they've experienced this really strongly in recent years. So they're very aware of this, and they're working on projects. We're looking at a way to credit folks on how they do green infrastructure. If you can limit what goes in there, we need to be able to credit that, and so they can save money. They're looking for a way to save money, and this is one of the ways to do it. Green infrastructure offers us potentially better ways of controlling this without the massive cost of big underground tunnels and pump stations and all that stuff. So this is trying to mimic natural absorption of rain, and that's what we're trying to do. The communities are very interested in doing it. They're already doing a lot of projects around that. So even like Clarkston and folks like that, they're very interested in this, and they don't want to see their lakes get polluted. So.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of Commissioner Bowman?
Commissioner Nash, I want to start this conversation by commending you on your work you're doing and specifically improving infrastructure, sewer and water. And as a result of all that work, there is a residual effect on ratepayers, and I know we want that residual effect to be very minimal. We are placing new meters Again, you are implementing the infrastructure improvements, and those all cost money. There is an impact, and it's being communicated to me from those ratepayers that those increases are substantive. I recall during the opportunity when we became part of the Great Lakes Water Authority agreement that there would be funds set aside for those that had difficulty in paying those rates. The RAP funds, that still is in existence. Is that a fund that we are utilizing and that residents can call upon?
Absolutely, and again, that's another thing we've put in the bills. We sent inserts with the bills around it. We're trying to educate as many folks as we can. Oakland County did not spend all the money that were allotted last year, so we're trying to improve how we can get that message out so we can pay ratepayers more. Actually, we're meeting with the operating folks down in Wayne County, I think early September, the date is now, to sit there with them and talk about how we can improve our outreach, how we can improve, if we can maybe change the qualifications to get help so we can bring more help to more people. If you have any ideas, if there's other ways we can reach out, I've been doing these district meetings in Pontiac in the past, 2 months now, actually. Julia Ruffin has been instrumental in doing that, setting these up. I've been to, I think 7 district meetings so far, and several of the other local group meetings in the past couple of months to explain this to them and to encourage them to have anybody they know that needs help come contact us. All the systems that we operate have been included in the RAP program, so everybody that we have any contact with is eligible if they qualify for the aid. So we're very interested in doing anything we can in terms of outreach for that, because it's very important that we don't want to give any money back. We want to spend the money that we're allotted.
Absolutely, and it's interesting to get that the caveat that there are additional funds within that balance, because I'm actually looking to champion to increase the opportunity to add funds to it, but obviously we want to make sure that those are expended.
Absolutely, we're doing anything we can to make sure that everybody knows this is available.
Okay, Jim, what's RAP?
It's the Water Residential Assistance Program. That's what it's called.
WRAP.
Through GLEWA, and GLEWA gives 1/2 of all revenues to that, and then it's divided among the communities by population. So basically, it grows every year as the budget grows 3 or 4%. So it's grown this year from last year.
Okay, go ahead.
I guess my follow-up question, and that is that reflected anywhere? I didn't check line items and whatnot, but is that reflected in the budget in terms of where we allocate those funds?
This is not handled through my office. It's handled through OLSA, Oakland Livingston Human Services Agency for Oakland County, and the whole operation is run by the Wayne County. Wayne Metro. They're the ones that run the program. That's the ones we're visiting with in the next month to see if we can loosen up some of this and find a better way to distribute it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, it keeps us on schedule, Jim, and thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, next is Clerk Register of Deeds. I keep thanking the elected officials for keeping us on schedule, but it's really the committee that's keeping us on schedule, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, we're showing up on time. That counts for something.
The latest thing is getting worse. Every day
Okay. Good morning.
What, nobody wanted to sit next to you?
Huh?
Nobody wanted to?
They're here for support. No, if there's anything, I usually can handle everything, but they're here just in case.
Okay.
But I will introduce them just so
Okay,
that
go
they
ahead.
didn't walk down for nothing,
Yeah.
right? So Laura Thierback, Chief Deputy Register of Deeds, Jennifer Howden, Chief Deputy Clerk, and Joe Roselle, Director of Elections.
Yep.
So, I just wanted to touch on a couple things before we get into any questions that you may have, but hopefully I'll cover any questions that you may have. First, we just had an election with our brand new equipment, which went really well. We had all the results in by 8:27 p.m. Think about that the polls close at 8, so that was good. We already used our high-speed tabulator, so thank you for your support with us being able to purchase that. We counted 286 ballots in maybe 2 minutes. I mean, to me it felt like a minute, but it's incredible. And we have an upcoming recount from this election that will be using that equipment again. So it was a good investment, definitely for us. And I want you to also realize like what that means when we can count the ballots faster for a recount. And I guess maybe I should differentiate. You have established that we do machine recounts unless it's a statewide, and you know we're paying people a per diem. When we can get those ballots counted quicker, then we have fewer days that we need to be working on this and get back to. We'd like to focus on November, so. We've been working with the SCAO on the statewide e-filing program. Oakland County, and hopefully the circuit court already told you, but we should be the first court. I'm nervous about it, so we're working on that. Jennifer's been great and very instrumental in that as well. And on the vital record side, we've been working with the state registrar for Oakland County to be up and running with EDRS, which is Electronic Death Registry. That should be soon as well. And again, Jennifer's done that. A big change that happened is the fee for Indeeds, and the legislature changed that to a $30 flat fee to record anything. So I want to talk about that a little bit and tell you the impact that that has had on certain line items. So for instance, if somebody 2 years ago came in to record a quitclaim deed, it's one page, it would have been $14. Now they come in, it's $30. But conversely, if somebody comes in and records a 9-page mortgage, that would have been $38, and now it's $30. So, but that affects our, different line items. And I do have a request in for 18, 19, and 20 on those items, and that is that you do follow the county exec recommended on deeds and mortgages. We are, I can see where we're at with fiscal year 2017, and those numbers are really more in line with where we will be versus the other numbers.
630,476.
Thank you. So I do request that you adopt those numbers, yeah. So. And I want to go through some of the other line items. Admission to the bar, you can see that that has dropped. It's even lower for this fiscal year, 2017. I've heard things about the bar exam, just like there was a question that just was from left field and things like that. I don't know if the law schools are accepting fewer people or if fewer people are applying to law school or what, but we are having fewer people pass the bar. So that line item has gone down. You can see that with the election filing fees late that I continue to be aggressive, I guess, in collecting those. There's an item on here, relocation, that's not normally in my budget. That was from the presidential recount. Never happened. That was the line item that all the expenses from that went into.
Even though it didn't happen, we did incur, we started to
Oh yeah, I mean, I
recount.
say it didn't happen because A, we didn't get to finish, and B, nothing was official.
Yeah.
Because the court stopped us. But yes, we
We
would have
incurred.
finished that day. Had we just had that one day, we would have finished. We worked at a really nice pace, I think ahead of, I know it was ahead of both what Joe and I thought we would do. We had great people working, and overall the observers were well behaved. A couple that weren't, but I had to kick somebody out. But other than that, well, I mean, rules are rules, so, anyway, so, What was the other thing? Oh, I will tell you, in the past, the overall revenue that I was asked to bring in was, over $11 million, and for this past year, it was raised to over 13, and, I got a little nervous about that, but I did want to highlight that, we did well beyond that and brought in over $16 million, so I was happy about that. And on the expenditures, again, spent less than was allotted. We do have quite a few vacancies, which I don't foresee being a permanent situation, so that will change. And I'm guessing that Commissioner Taub may ask about library continuation, so I did want to touch on that and tell you that is for copies of the court rules. The price of those did go up, and we did order another copy because I wanted one in my office. Oftentimes, SCAO sends out emails asking for input for changes, and I have recommended a few. They still had in the book a court rule in regards to gun boards, which we don't have anymore, so things of that nature. And to have the book is a lot easier for staff to be able to tab it and keep going back instead of always going and opening a website and starting all over again. So that's that line item, and I welcome any questions that anyone might have.
Okay, Commissioner Staub still has a comment.
I do not. I do not. I want to tell you, I wasn't even going to ask about library continuations. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Okay. I have one question on item number, page 169, 631148. What's a marriage fee?
Marriage fee is when I officiate.
Everything.
A marriage fee is when I officiate. I officiate as county clerk. I officiate, and I don't know what year, but you all set a fee for when the county clerk officiates. And our fee, by the way, is like super low. It's the best deal in town. It's $10.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we don't.
Until that money comes in, you don't put it in the budget. That's the way
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
listed.
it's, and I know my predecessor didn't do any. I know that Ruth did do a few, but then stopped. So, and it's, sometimes I can't. It's not fitting in my schedule, but it is something nice. That
It doesn't affect that $800 million budget very much.
It doesn't, yeah. I mean, I was surprised to see that I did 71 weddings. I know, and I will say they're all here. I don't do them off-site. They're all, working hours and that sort of
Okay,
thing. So,
thank you.
yeah, no problem.
Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know you've done a tremendous job. I'm going to talk about fraud and fraudulent deed acquisitions, and just horrible stories when it kind of falls out in the heartache and frustration that it brings to the people who've been victimized by it. When people come in and do a deed transfer or take owner of property or whatever. Are there, and I think you've got some systems in place that actually catches that a lot quicker, but these folks are always going to be kind of looking for a way to be able to do it. So are there any more things? If you had more resources that we could be doing to root this out, or?
I think, that's the reason why I had property records notification created, just so homeowners would know if something's recorded. I am limited in our authority as the register of what we can do with the document when it's presented for recording. So it's hard. Somebody may call and say, hey, this is fraudulent. I didn't, it's a construction lien. I never hired these people or whatever. There's nothing that I can do. We can't remove it from our records. And they unfortunately have to go through court. So it's limited as to what I can do. I'm always on the lookout, and I sign up for these fraud blogs, like other things that are happening in other places, to see if there's a trend so that we are on the lookout. Or if we get documents that are titled something unusual, it looks like other things, but then the title is a little different. I try and be on the lookout for things, but it's not. It's a hard thing captured.
Mhm.
But I do have a great relationship with our law enforcement here, because I do call, so.
Great, no, that's great. So if I walk up to Commissioner Zach, I go to the counter and throw down a construction loan, lien on her property,
Oh.
she will be notified. I mean, no, I do not use a hammer.
Good example.
If the wording of that lien is, and you know, the margins and the things that are statutory required in a recording are all proper, and a construction lien, you have to put in certain information, a little bit more than other kinds of liens, but, if she signed up for PRN, for property records notification.
So she has to sign up for it, so
she would have to
it's not
sign
an
up for it.
automatic.
It's free, but she would get an email alerting her that a lien has been recorded on her property. OCMIdeeds.com is where you
Okay.
go to sign
It's good to
up.
know. But we don't have a way, is it cost prohibitive to send something in the mail to the homeowner to say, oh, by the way, this lien has been filed? It arguably is gonna be redundant for the large majority of the cases that people are like, yeah, I know, but.
I mean, I know one of our neighbors sends postcards, for certain recordings. To me, I've never found a postcard to be the most effective to contact somebody, and, obviously it's costly. Postcards get lost in the mail, and it's publicizing what perhaps maybe they didn't pay for somebody to do construction on their home, and now the mailman knows, whatever. But I think that an email is direct, plus people move. They don't change their address, but usually if you move, and you may own rental properties, so if it's going, you know, wherever it's going, but a postcard, but you usually don't change your email address, even if you change your home address. And the other thing is that we have people who, like I have an alert set on my parents' house as well, so I don't need to get postcards about that, but.
Right. So people can sign up, can you only sign up for yours, or can you sign up for anybody else?
Anybody. You can sign, like I said, I have one obviously on my own property, but also on my parents', because they're not that computer savvy. Anything you could, and to me, it's not just for the homeowner. With law enforcement, like I said, we have some folks that, you know, have some suspicious activity. They can create an alert on those names to see if they pop up, if they're recording something else. I was a realtor once upon a time, so to me, I would have used it like for the area that I farm, like I would have put that in, you know, different subdivisions and that sort of thing. So you can use any search term.
But it's only for property in Oakland County?
It's only, yeah, it's just ours. I mean, I literally had it created. I sat there and I said, you need to make this. I don't know how to do it, but you guys figure it out. This is what I want, and it needs to be on any search term, and it's done on our daily, so it's done in a timely manner. As soon as something's indexed, you're gonna get that information, in a timely manner, and not have to wait months for it, like our other program that we had that was only on names, so.
Okay. I have a question on page 172, 731395, and it's printing of county directories, and it's continued each year.
Yes.
And we only print them, what, every 2 years?
No, so that did happen with the budget tasks, and that it was moved to every 2 years. And then I think in my second year here, I realized that it really makes them almost halfway, you know, half of it not correct because of our municipalities, townships versus cities, and when they have elections and that sort of thing. And so I split the budget in half for what it was for every 2 years, and made it every year so that we could update our local elected officials.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you have a recount on the last election?
We have a recount, yes.
Which community?
In Pontiac, for one of the city council.
District 5, City Council, District 5 in Pontiac.
Okay, who's that? Not Carter.
4 votes between the second place finisher and the third place finisher.
Oh, so to get them
Only
into
top
the
2
runoff.
will advance. There's a fairly significant difference between the top finisher and the number 2.
Right, the top finisher was, there was a
above.
huge majority, then the second place finisher received 158 votes, and third place was 154. So the person who came in third has asked for the recount, so. Feel
Okay.
free to stop by
Oh,
and see
y'all
how
would
it's
too.
working.
Because
Okay,
as I-
thank you.
it's a-
Next is the
Two
sheriff's
more.
office. Are they here?
Sheriff is on his way. You
Oh.
want to take Parks and Rec before us?
Oh, okay, we can do that. We will take the order, we'll reverse the order from between sheriff and parks. So Parks and Rec, are they here? Oops. Yeah.
Start management and budgeting.
Oh. Parks is way down the bottom.
Do we want to go county exec first? You guys ready?
Yeah.
Oh, I was born ready.
Oh, there's Sue.
Oh.
Oh, okay, Sue, would- we're gonna do Parks and Rec.
Just needed to run faster.
This is too big of a figure, but this is much easier.
Sue, do you want to get started then?
If you wanna get started, Mr. Stenzel's out there, but I'm more than happy to get started.
Okay, Chris is looking for Dan, which you can,
There it is.
oh, yeah, we kind of changed some order on you, Dan, so.
Gotta get Mr. Phelps up here also.
5:42.
Then where was that? You know you have to have a family.
Okay, Dan, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity to share some highlights of our fiscal 2018 to 20 budget. Sue Wells, our manager of Parks and Recreation Operations, is joining me, as well as Jeff Phelps, our fiscal coordinator. Just a quick synopsis of the park system: that we were created in 1966, and we've grown to over 7,000 acres. 13 parks. We have 74 full-time staff, 600 part-time non-eligible. We have about 1.8 million visitors per year, 68 miles of trails, 5 golf courses, 2 dog parks, 2 campgrounds, 2 water parks, some banquet and meeting facilities, 2 nature centers, and then a year-round selection of special events and programs that enhance the programs of our park system and facilities. We've also grown our volunteer force from 400 individuals in 3 years ago up to 1,600 over the last 3 years. We are funded by a $0.25 mil, which is currently effective 0.2368, which will generate more than $13 million as the majority of our budget. We bring in program fees and charges to the tune of about $10 to $11 million a year. Our Parks Commission has directed the staff to focus its efforts on maintaining the current park system and its assets at a very high level of quality, with a limited emphasis on new facilities that require any additional expenditures for operating resources. A couple highlights proposed in the fiscal 2018 budget include additional hiking opportunities countywide, which will include a perimeter trail around Catalpa Oaks. We also have a large project replacing the bottom of the water park, or the wave pool at Red Oaks. And then we are also increasing our recreational programs through local collaborations for large special events in southeast Oakland County. So with that, if you have any questions.
Okay, Commissioner Zach.
Okay, so I'm in the categorical analysis, page 97, and I was looking at, you know, some of the facilities are, I know the food services, it's the third thing down, reimbursement contracts, you know, we have a decrease in concession stands, sales retail, you know, green fees. What's going on here? I know that we're trying to right-size our food.
Correct.
And can you explain where we're at with that? It's talking, you know, we are.
Paragraph right there.
Yeah, we have
Decreased
some,
one, but
we
then-
have increased, but then we have a decrease in some of the reimbursements.
Right.
I know
So the
that-
reimbursements come from the existing contracts that we have with like Catherine's Catering and Oak Management. And then the increase is coming for the operations that we currently now operate in grill rooms at Lion Oaks and White Lake Oaks.
So our own operations are more efficient than the contracted ones, is that what's happening, or?
It's somewhat twofold, from a customer service standpoint and also from a time standpoint. Golf course staff can operate the grill room, longer hours because they're almost duplicating jobs. They could be at the cash register taking money for golf as well as serving a Pepsi. So, you know, those efficiencies are better for us.
And better for the customer.
And better
too.
for the customer. We've gotten very positive comments on the operation. However, this year, we did have an expense, the startup expense, but you know, it takes about 3 years before we're at that area where we feel very comfortable, much like we're at with the water parks right now.
Because we've operated those now year 3.
Yes.
Now, I also looked at, see that we have an overall planned use of balance, or that, okay, that decreased, but we are still using previous balance in operation?
Actually, in 2016, the unrestricted net position increased, I think, 1.3 million, even though there's an operating loss of $1 million. That's because of the depreciation effect. And also in 2016, capital project expenses were just over $1 million, but that could fluctuate in 2018 and 19, but by 2020, we're projecting no use of fund balance, which is good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Tom.
So, how's golf going?
When's the last time you watched it?
Golf is holding its own. Nationwide, there seems to be a decrease in the Midwest area, and we are holding our own, which is higher than what the standard or the trends are in the Midwest. We have more leagues this year than we have previously, and leagues are the bread and butter for our golf courses. They'll be out today when it's raining. You know, the general golfer won't be out there today. So there seems to be an uptick on golf. And we're really promoting women's golf, youth golf, because they're our golfers of tomorrow.
I think our staff has done a great job of maintaining the golf courses. We've gotten a lot of comments about the condition of the facilities as well as the customer service. And it goes to what Sue was talking about earlier with us assuming the responsibility for the 2 grill rooms. We now control that experience from the time they get there to the time they leave. And it's much more seamless.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? Commissioner Woodward?
Thank you. So, I mean, a question that I raise regularly, I mean, I know that, I mean, just due to operations, subsidizing some of these banquet centers, some of the enhancements, some of bringing the stuff in-house is intended to try to decrease that subsidy, make them more self-sufficient. I guess where are we, kind of like this, the annual checkup, if you will, I think we were around like $500,000 a year of them not bringing enough revenue to offset their full expense. Where are we today? Are we going up?
Specifically in banquets?
The banquet, yeah.
Oh.
Well, like the banquet operations. Compared to, I know there, I mean, we had a projection that we would be closing that gap, probably maybe not completely eliminating it, but closing it over time because of
We
some
are
of the
closing.
enhancements and other things. And so I'm just, I was trying to figure it out through the.
Yeah, there's more detail actually in the Parks and Recreation budget document.
I would imagine, yeah.
But in 2016, the conference centers brought in $815,000, and the overall expense is $1.3 million. So it is still a $500,000 gap from last year. And we are budgeting $1.8 million in conference center expenses for 18, and $1.1 million in revenues. So it's still there, the gap is.
So is it, well, in that scenario, the gap is increasing. But
For clarification, the conference centers also include the grill room,
Okay.
which the increase was.
The enhance of the upgrades and other things.
enhancement of it.
Okay.
As well as, it does include our method, especially at White Lake Oak and Lion Oaks, of how we provide banquets. Historically, the contractor would operate the kitchen and they would have exclusive right. Right now, the banquet contractor is a caterer where they bring in the food. So this is a new model that we're looking at both these facilities, and it seems to be working, but with a new caterer in there always comes a new business and picking up business, and it seems like the individuals, we have more people starting to rent the facility.
Okay. On the plan use of fund balance, so by 2020, we're anticipating that we won't be using fund balance, and so our current fund balance today is, I have this written down here.
You're not gonna find it in there, sorry.
Okay.
As of
I'd add it.
October 1st of 2016, the unrestricted net position was $23.6 million, which was an increase over the previous year of $22.3 million. Probably partially used $600,000 in fund balance in the current fiscal year, I believe, and probably more next year, but yeah, it's gonna be phased out. And that's a result of property taxes recovery, but also it's the result of a decrease in depreciation, because I think it's like 27% of all the assets are being depreciated over the next couple of years, so that expense has gone down quite a bit, which for a 50-year-old system is kind of it's a red flag, I think, as far as reinvesting in the existing structures.
Right. And, I mean, I think definitely it's such a large chunk of revenue is generated from the annual property tax that helps support this. What is our, thought to be able to sustain that long term without an increase in revenue? Operations enhancements.
Renewal of the existing millage, either in 18 or 2020, has not been determined at this point, but that definitely would assist.
The different RAP program is that staying at the current levels?
It currently is a $200,000 value.
Mm-hmm.
We have expended approximately $170,000. We have been instructed by our Parks Commission that if we need more money, to come back and they will allocate more money. One thing, we have expanded that program to run into the fall. Historically, it's been Memorial Day through Labor Day, and we're running it September, October also.
Sue, what's an explanation of the program?
Well, I'm sorry, it's our Recreation Assistance Partnership Program where we provide our mobile units and other programs to communities and at no charge.
Yeah, and I guess I want to, publicly applaud the Parks and Rec. My city decided to shut down Main Street. Honestly, I was a little skeptical at what this was going to do, but translated, and as a result, every weekend, Friday nights, allowed families to walk around the streets and everything, the parks. We were able to tap into these resources, and it was an awesome addition Everyone was raving about it. Everyone was happy, and the quickness and promptness that Parks and Rec responded to it. I guess I want to publicly thank you for that, because it was well received, and people, honestly, this was a conversation. I got a phone call like, how did this happen? I mean, they were like, they're sending a bill, and then it's not a bill because it's being pulled from this this program. And everyone, I mean, it really was a demonstration of. It kind of came on the heels of a rotation of, getting public feedback from the local communities on things, and I just want to say thank you very much for that. And I think it's a demonstration of the demand for public recreation. I think it opened an opportunity to think creatively. How do we, beyond just facilities, but we look at ways to help complement and create more recreation opportunities. And I'll always be there pushing for more of that. And I appreciate you for taking some of that feedback. I guess one last question.
Okay.
Catalpa Oaks, you mentioned trails around the perimeter of Catalpa Oaks. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? That was something I wasn't.
Well, there's a trail that's been created by the people who utilize that facility, just walking around. So we're going to kind of follow. We're going to kind of follow that, but
nice.
And enhance it, make it a little wider, and make it a little more construction savvy with some gravel and limestone fines, so it's easier to maneuver. So we're also looking at improvements to the fields down there, with one field being upgraded the next couple years to increase the playability and function of the 4 soccer fields that are down there.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have Fleming and then Zach, so go ahead.
Thank
Wait.
you, Mr. Chair. On page 544, account number 7300789, General Program Administration. Just looking at the amended plan 18 to 19, I see that we're $1,265,000, and 18 we're dropping to 725, and 19 amended, and that's down from 17.
I think he's right here. What number?
475. Just wondering what that fluctuation, what accounts for that
These
fluctuation
$1 million ones.
in General Program Administration.
That's a collaborative effort with Independence Township in creating a safety path extension from the current main entrance to Independence Oaks up to the North Park.
That was completed and now it's.
Well, it's going to be completed.
But I'm just saying that's why the budget's going down.
So it's dropping off because it's gonna be completed at expense.
That's also partially the categorical analysis on 97, 98, the fluctuation.
It dropped about $500,000 between 18 and 19.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner, you done, Wade?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Zach?
Thank you for increasing the RAP programming to the communities to know that, because I know several of my communities have fall programs, and so it's good to have additional services. Are they aware of that?
They are aware of it, we've been in contact with them. But if you know of, DDAs or other, feel free to contact us, and we'll be more than happy to make that contact too.
And that's what Commissioner Woodward did. Came up with a need, and we had the ability to support it, so.
In 24 hours.
Yeah.
That was pretty remarkable.
hours or less.
I see an increased amount of events in many of my cities that I represent, and they're very well attended. I was at one event where this one group, pink bourbon or whiskey, I don't know what it was. They were handing out checks, community impact checks as a result of that. First time festival in Ferndale. And so these things are very well attended, and I know this is helping, so thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Parks and Rec? If not, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
So, next, now we're gonna go back on schedule and go to the Sheriff's Office. I see the Sheriff here. And Sheriff's Office is on page 142 of the big book, and 39 on the category. 156 if you're doing the PDF. Yep, sure. So we can get back into the regular budget. Good morning. It's still morning. Mike, go ahead.
The record should reflect I was here at 10:59, sir.
Oh.
Never make you wait. But thank you for the opportunity to chat about our budget. We are appreciative of the commissioner's support, and certainly the county executive. Brooks Patterson's always been a supporter of public safety. Obviously, it's a dangerous and changing world with lots of different threat matrices that are developing both around the world but in America. And so as a result, we're responding to those, we're training for those, we're preparing for those. And as I've said to this body before, we hope and pray that we never have to face those, but hope and pray is not a strategy, preparation is. And I think that because of your support on the commission and with Brooks, we're in as good a place as we can be for preparing for what we don't know we might face. In terms of our corrections side, it's very busy. It's a constant challenge for the good major from corrections to keep staffed. You know, we have a pretty high vacancy rate, and we're constantly trying to fill that, and so obviously periodically you see some information relative to the overtime that's certainly reflective of that constant challenge. I think we have 20.
We just hired 25, and one of them already quit, and we're back up to 10 vacancies on the corrections side.
So it's a constant challenge, but you know, we've got a great team working on it and keep plugging away on that front. On the road side, our request on the law enforcement side of the shop, our request for services from other agencies, you know, continues to be dramatic, and we service that, I think, you know, very well. I was just reading the pass on from yesterday. We got requests from Auburn Hills, from Bloomfield Township, and, you know, and it's fairly common every day to get requests from other agencies to help. So that's been going well. The partnership among our police agencies in Oakland County, I think, is second to none. Our relationships with all the chiefs and our state and federal partners has been great. You may have seen the press case that came through the Oakland County Gang and Violent Task Force that's housed on this campus, both for opioid trafficking and human trafficking. Those are powerful cases, and we hope send a powerful message that, you know, we're watching for this, and it's not acceptable in this county or anywhere, quite frankly. So a lot going on. Dream Cruise, of course, that little minor event, over 1 million people showing up, you know, on an unsecured pathway, which gives us the most.
You look at it a little different than everybody else.
And that gives us more lost sleep, I think, than almost any event. But it's a great event for the community, but it is one that keeps us up at night thinking, what if, on lots of levels.
Okay, Fleming has a question to start with.
I do not have a question.
Oh.
I have a thank you. Thank you, Sheriff, and your entire department for the excellent job that you do. You've got the largest budget in the county, and rightfully so. But you're doing an excellent job. I think the average citizen has no idea what your feet on the street are experiencing every day. This is not a good time for law enforcement in this country. But I think what you're doing, and what you're doing, and your people are doing every day on the street, and your community involvement, and the network of cooperation you have with the other chiefs in the area and the other police department, speaks volumes. You know, we could have a problem in Oakland County, but I think we're better prepared than the average police department and sheriff's department across this country. And that is a result of leadership. And I thank you for that. I had an opportunity here a couple of months ago that Under Sheriff McCabe arranged for me to do a ride-along with one of your deputies on a third shift in Pontiac. Very eye-opening as to what takes place every night. There are people there's some great people in Pontiac. There are some people that don't get up until 1 o'clock in the morning to start their day. And that's what your officers are experiencing out there on the third shift. But I saw a balance in those officers of being stern and firm, coupled with compassion and forgiveness and giving people a break when they deserved it, when they really were just having a tough time. And that's not something that all police departments across the country do. And I've ridden along with other police departments in other counties and other states and so forth. But I was really impressed with what I saw. And again, that comes from the top. And I just want you to know, and I think I speak for most people, probably everyone on this Board of Commissioners, we want to have your back. We want to make sure that your officers have the best equipment, are the best prepared, the best trained. I know you're having a difficult time hiring and attracting deputies and law enforcement officers because of the climate that we're in this country, okay? But I think whatever I can do individually to try to help you do that and keep us safe and continue to have good quality caliber officers in the jails and throughout your organization, I just want you to know that I've got your back, and I think this commission has your back. And thank you for the excellent job that you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you. That, really means a lot. I know that the men and women on the front line, they don't seek recognition, but when you say thanks for their service, they appreciate that. And to know that, folks stand behind them means a lot to them. They're doing a tough job all across this country, and when they make a mistake or do something wrong, they ought to be held accountable. We believe that. Certainly, but most of them are doing a darn good job under tough circumstances, and having people stand behind them and say we appreciate what you're doing means a lot to them, and I'll make sure we pass it on to them. And as to Pontiac, we love Pontiac. We think it's got so much great things going on. The first grass tennis courts built in America in 100 years. You got the Strand Flagstar Theater. You got Slows. You got the Pete Carmanos brought his business downtown. You've got two huge businesses that are coming to the complex off of South Boulevard. I've been meeting with some of the business leaders there, encouraging them and letting them know that we're going to make sure that we do what we need to do to keep their employees safe and keep their companies growing. The folks in Pontiac are awesome. And we do a lot of different programs when you speak to the Compassion. And it helps our folks kind of move away from seeing the bad stuff to seeing the smiles and the good stuff. We do Pizza on Patrol. We do Recycle for Kids, where we give out bicycles. We do Coats for the Cold. We do just a host of different programs that really connect on a personal level. And PAL has really allowed us to integrate with both the faith community, the school community, and the residents on an athletic level for mentorship and friendship. And so we love being in Pontiac. We really do. We think it's got some great days ahead with some great opportunities. Thank you.
Okay. Next, I have Commissioner Taub.
Thank you, Sheriff. I have to say thank you because you're my constituent. And thank you for all you do. I have a couple of just curiosity questions, okay? Just curious. On page 143, something called fitness leave. What is that?
Is there a fitness policy with the union?
We have a contract with different unions where if they reach certain health benchmarks, they get extra time off. I certainly am a big believer that it's both great for the employee and for the organization to have a fitness standard, but we can't mandate one, so we incentivize one.
Okay.
Did you find that?
That's a good thing. All right, next, on page 144, there's some auction expenses, 730114. But do you get any revenue after you do the auctions? Because I didn't see a revenue line for it.
Yes, we do. A lot of it goes into a different line. It doesn't go into auction revenue sometimes. It can go into our forfeiture account. It can go into our auto theft fund when we sell an auto at auction.
Okay. Now, the last one, of course, is my one I hate the most. Is there any way we can put computers in the jail instead of having to buy all those books for prisoners?
Actually, we're experimenting with that very soon. There's a major. Do you remember the name of that program?
What was the number of which?
It's library continuations.
Yeah.
Page 144, 731101.
The current vendor we have for the inmate phone system has offered us iPads to experiment with the inmates. So We're just rolling that program out. I think we're gonna get 30 of them as an experiment. They're a ruggedized iPad you can't break, basically, and we're gonna experiment with that and see how it works.
Are you gonna be able to put the legal books that you must, I know you have to maintain them by law, I
Yes.
get that part.
We will be able to put the legal link to it.
So you could go into LexisNexis or
yes.
whatever the county uses?
Correct.
Okay, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
'Cause I think it would-
We have to obviously make sure that there's a right firewall so that they can't be surfing things, you know.
Yeah, I get that part, yeah. No, I understand that, and maybe that would be the only thing you could probably put on there, but, you know. And other expendable equipment it's a line item on page 145. Just wondered what it was.
It's a catch-all.
Okay.
Especially in corrections, the majority of it's in corrections. What happens is that we just have a lot of equipment over the years. Let me back up. We're general fund, so we don't depreciate our equipment like you heard Parks and Rec say earlier. So, but in the correctional facility, periodically desks, chairs. Most people don't realize that in our shop, someone sits in a chair 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, so they wear out a lot quicker. So those are just examples, but that's the type of equipment that we're talking about there. So.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Sheriff, very much, appreciate it.
Okay, I have a couple questions. On page 146, Clemis Development, 773530. And it was 253,016, but you zeroed out after that. That must have gotten moved somewhere?
No, what happens is that budget and expense is moved in quarterly. Actually comes before the finance committee.
Okay.
Part of the IT development.
Okay, and that's where that was.
Yeah.
So, okay. Then down farther is radio communications. Is that different than Clemis?
Well, yeah, that's the radio that's in the patrol car or the handheld radio. So it's a monthly charge that we pay for those devices.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Eileen.
Yeah, corrections too.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick comment. I just wanted to say thank you for learning from incidents that happen around the world and taking precautions to protect us here, especially during events like the Dream Cruise. And I heard about what you're doing, and you're just staying on top of things. So thank you.
He's getting a lot of grief over it, but he's got broad shoulders.
My husband got a phone call about it, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a changing world, so we have, for the Dream Cruise, there's restrictions on vehicles this year. It's no commercial vehicles, no vehicles in excess of 10,000 pounds, and no trailers. On Woodward from 9 to 9.
Yeah.
From Pontiac down to
From 8 Mile to and around the loop.
So, you're gonna have that, and you'll have sheriff's departments policing that or something?
Every police agency was in agreement that this was a good first step. So every police agency in their own jurisdictions, plus we help with every jurisdiction along the route, will be spotting any vehicles that are in non-compliance and encouraging them politely to leave immediately. But it is a ticketable offense.
Okay.
And
Any
to
other
that
questions?
point, we're hosting an event later this year with Major County Sheriffs of America. And we're gonna get briefed on Manchester and England, and we're gonna get a little more updated on the attack at the Flint airport, and we're gonna go through scenarios that happened all across the world to see if there's anything else we need to be thinking about or learning from.
Okay, I have Commissioner Woodward and then Commissioner Taub. Yeah. Dave. Okay, Commissioner Taub.
Yeah, I just have one,
And then we'll
I just
skip
have
Woodward.
3 letters for you. D, N, A, just 3 letters.
As you know, Commissioner reported the lab, forensic lab has already been ASCLD accredited. The DNA lab has been ASCLD accredited. We're open now for a very small amount of business. The problem is we're waiting on our CODIS connection, which is the combined DNA index system from the FBI. The only thing that's holding us up is the high-speed line that the FBI has to install. Verizon is the contractor for the FBI. and we've been moved up on the process, any day now. I can tell you, it's out of our control.
I'm gonna just say one thing.
We're testing DNA, but we need the CODIS to move into the
If you're waiting for Verizon to service you, God help us all. Okay, that's it.
Well, the federal government picked them as their vendor.
Okay, Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Sheriff, for, I think the change in standard and Woodward Dream Cruise is a very positive thing, and actually for the people that I've talked to, received well. I mean, they were like, well, what are we going to do with this? And they're like, well, I suggest you park it at 8 a.m. That would be my recommendation, and and then open it up and then party in it. I don't know. So yeah, no, good move. I mean, excellent move on that. My first question. I mean, I know that I had conversations around piloting body cams and other things in the past. We have a state framework for the use of body cams. I know everyone doesn't like all the pieces of it, but at least there's a framework, and so I think from a statewide regulatory frame, we have an idea how this works, and that can inform the costs for actually doing this. And so, is there any plan to expand the use of body cams on our deputies that are out there protecting the community?
We're in the process of looking at the details and the logistics. I didn't want to deploy body cameras until I felt comfortable that the privacy of the people we serve was protected. So we've worked very hard with the legislature over the last year and a half to try to get something in place so that we would feel comfortable launching a program. We think there's a pretty good framework in place now that just recently was signed, and so as a result, we're beginning that process to look at what we call T&E test and evaluation, and so that process.
Over the next year, do we envision these things? I'm operating. I feel that we've had the conversation on pilot stuff or looking at vendors and things like that for quite a while. I don't know. Did we ever get it out in the field, or we're still at the evaluation stage?
We did it on just individual kind of trying it internally, because as soon as you put it in the field, it became a public document.
Correct.
So we didn't want to expose people to that before we had their protection. So, and technology has changed a lot.
Right.
In the time frame that we first started talking about it many years ago, even before it was popular, we had looked at different devices, but the technology's come a long way in terms of what's ruggedized and how they work and how they operate, how they store data. All of that has really changed dramatically. So even though we did look at some different things, 2 years ago, it's a completely different animal now. And there's different deals out there in terms of if you do data storage with them, then they'll provide equipment, and so we're beginning to reacclimate to what's available and do comparisons.
Okay. Do we envision in the next year a capital outlay to buy cameras or acquire these services to be able to do this? How about this? Rephrase my question.
I would like to do
I would be very
program.
Yes, I would be very supportive of that, but that's going to require some additional resources, and so we've got to figure out how to do that.
Handle on the equipment and the cost, you'll be our first stop. We would like to do a program. I think it makes good sense.
Excellent. Next question. I know in the capital outlay, down the road, conversation around a redundant, actually an additional dispatch center. We're at capacity in our current dispatch facility, and it's one facility, and you've always been on the front lines of making sure you put in redundancy, to added protection, and all those other types of things. But I'm very invested in centralizing more of that for the cost savings and higher reliability of those services around the county. What, I guess, from a timeline perspective, where are we in that kind of that deliberation process of securing us? Guess.
Working with the county executive's office, and we're looking at right now location for dispatch, emergency operations center, and a training center also that's been on the board for many years. And I've been meeting with Mr. Poisson, and he has his staff right now diligently looking at that. So I think it's in the not too distant future. You'll probably see something coming before the board.
Okay. Wow, moving through faster than I thought.
He just passed the buck too.
And he's up next.
No, you guys passed the buck.
A lot of bucks.
This will have bucks involved.
Yes.
But as you said, the facilities are you know, the dispatch center was upgraded internally, but in terms of its location and a lot of the specifics that relate to where you're supposed to place an EOC, it doesn't comply with current day standards. Our training facilities, you know, were built back when there were like 270 people training, and now, you know, 1,000 people trained. So, and the training's different. You know, the training that we're gonna be moving to with a new facility and as the days go forward is force on force, stress training, make them make decisions, make them move, stress them, critique them, let them learn in a training environment so that they're better prepared in a real world situation to make solid choices. And it's a much different kind of training than, you know, we all used to have, standing on a static line and the target turns. No, we're gonna have judgmental decisions where it's enveloping them in a surrounding, sometimes with, you know, more sims or a shoot house scenario kind of thing, and certainly with computerized simulator that we intend to get that will make them make decisions and then allow it to become critiqued and go back through. And the one device we actually tested puts a shocker device on the deputy when they're going through the training, and if they don't react properly, it's like a bee sting. And they know that, you know, they should do something different. So
wow,
and that raises
how Pavlovian.
What that does is it raises the tension in your heart rate and your breathing, and it brings that kind of tension that would be in a real world event, and then challenges you with making a decision. And those are the kinds of things that I think lead to better outcomes. You know, without getting too deep into this, I've said for many years, when you look at some of the bad police situations across the country, the two best ways to get in front of those is better hiring and better training.
Right.
And so we think we do a pretty good job on hiring, but we have to stay state-of-the-art on the training side.
Okay, next question. I mean, and you've also been here on the front line. Everywhere around this country has been touched by the opioid crisis, and some of the initiatives that you've laid out, as well as I mean, the partnership with community mental health of having Narcan available in all the deputy. I mean, has saved lives. It has saved lives with the hope. Probably not enough support on the treatment side. I mean, across the board around the country, but we have demonstrated save lives and the value of that. So I've heard some recent reports around the country. I have not heard them here. I'm just interested in your report. I mean, there's a shelf life of this. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, it's significant, but it's there is a shelf life, and I know that we received this funding through a grant to be able to put. I mean, to have this equipment. I mean, this drug, if you will, in all the deputy cars. At some point, is that grant sustaining to be able to support all of that? I have asked them around to other departments outside the sheriff's division, and not all the departments are using it and don't have it available. And I'm trying to. I think it's really critical that we get there. I was under the impression that they're going to make that same type of thing available, but my impression is that there isn't enough money to do that for everybody. Or maybe it's not just the drug, it's the training and all the other stuff that's required to be able to do it and taking on that responsibility, frankly, and I can understand some hesitation. So first, we have a ready supply, and there's not I mean, the grant that supported it is enough to continue to support it, because I think some other counties have said that when it's gone, and we won't do it anymore. So I'd be interested in your comment and update on how it relates, particularly the Narcan thing, but maybe other resources that are necessary to fully combat this opiate crisis.
Yeah, it's probably our #1, community challenge, I think, across this country is the opioid abuse and how we move forward. First, to the Narcan, we have a great partnership with CMH, and we have not seen a shortage from our needs. We have utilized it 107 times. Wow. So we've made a lot of saves. When I went to the legislature and asked for permission to change the law so we could carry it, I thought we'd save a few lives. And not in my wildest imagination, but I think we have used it 107 times in about 2 years, so we're running about 50 saves a year. And so when you look at the statistics, you know,
It's
that's
just
a big
representative.
number. When you look at the opioid deaths in our county, you know, add 50 in a year, that would be a big increase. So I think it's a great program. Some agencies or folks, you know, have different thoughts on it, but I think if we can give people a second chance, it's the right thing to do. This affects every kind of family, every kind of community, and every kind of situation. And it's incredibly sad. Lots of times the pathway to addiction comes through sports injury or oral surgery, not the traditional path you think. So we think that that's an important program. Obviously, our partnerships with all the chiefs around the county, we're over, I think, 36 locations now on Operation Medicine Cabinet to get the opioids out of the house and out of the waterway so they don't flush it. You know. I think two changes that would be extremely helpful on this front, and we've been pushing Lansing on both these counts. You know, as you know, Lansing sometimes moves slow. But there's two things that we think would make a huge difference in the opioid crisis in our state, and that is that when we do make a save, we don't have the ability to disclose who we saved, where they are, or what happened because of HIPAA laws, and we'd like a change in statute so we can notify CMH or the probate court or someone that can maybe have a pathway to, with that information, to get them into treatment, intervention. So we think that that would be helpful on our saves, because right now we've on more than one occasion saved somebody, they get stabilized, hospital doesn't have the ability to hold them, and then they walk out of the hospital and they go look for the very same thing that put them there. So that's one piece of legislation I think that would be helpful. The other is we have a system, MyCaps, where physicians and pharmacists enter information on prescriptions being prescribed and filled. Right now in the state of Michigan, that is a voluntary system with about 50% participation, not real time. And I believe specifically that if it was mandated and it was real time, physicians would be able to see that this person just was at another office down the street and got the very same script, and pharmacists would see they just filled the same kind of script at Walgreens and now they're at CVS or Rite Aid. Florida did a similar program they had in the 90s of the most worst 100 physicians prescribing opiates in America, and after they passed the law, they don't have any in the top 100. So, you know, I think it helps identify people that are doing the buying and the pill shopping and the pill mills, and I think that helps to go to the supply chain. I don't think we can arrest our way out of it. Certainly, it's our highest priority for the narcotics enforcement team, but we need treatment, we need diversion, we need education, we need the medical and pharmacy community to have the tools to begin to identify, you know, where the leaks are in the system, and I think it's going to be systemic. So, you know, we've been pushing for a couple more changes, and we hope at some point they get those done.
And then I've got two last questions. One is one I bring up regularly, particularly as it relates to our privatized food service. And it seems, I mean, the commissary continues to generate revenue, and I mean, usually I think every 6 months or so I ask for the list, and I'll probably be asking again to see that. When is that contract up? And
January.
In January, so
Yeah,
it's up in
we're
January.
going out to bid next month.
So it is going out to bid.
Yeah.
That was my question. I mean, as it relates to that, because I imagine that. There's probably lots of people interested in that. And the next thing is a little related, and I'm arguably probably not the best messenger to ask this question, but some years ago there was another county that's actually dealing with some federal civil rights issue around this, and so there's nothing like a problem, but there's been more and more attention that's somehow come across my feed, and in my household has been a topic of conversation. So with our female inmates at the jail, brought in, they access to feminine products and and availability of those. And so is current practice in our jail, I just don't know this question, that people have to buy them at the jail, or are those products made available to female inmates out of basic humanity?
Both.
You get the basics
Yeah.
given to you, and if you want something more, then you purchase.
Yeah, it's both. We also provide them, but they're also for sale through if maybe upgraded products.
Oh, you know I'm going here. I was like, honey, I don't know how I'm gonna have this conversation. So I guess my question is, like, what is the cost? What would be the cost to provide?
I didn't bring
Okay,
that.
so we don't need the cost right now,
Yeah.
but we can get the cost of that, because I was like, there is something that, like a standard, and I know, frankly, there are actually counties and other jurisdictions that are just like this is the standard, this will be provided. And I would like to see us go there, assuming that the cost doesn't throw things off disproportionately. I can't imagine that it does. I think it's the right thing to do, fundamentally. And so.
Well, as I said, the basic kinds of things are covered and provided. If they want to step up in products or additional products.
Well, I guess
they
the
can do
basics
that.
from a man's perspective is different than from a woman's perspective. So I guess
I think the women
that's.
put together the list. I don't even know what would be on the list.
Don't want to know.
Oh, I think you just have to ask. So, okay, I guess I would be interested in knowing like what that cost is, like what's purchased, and like,
Yeah.
what is the cost of that. And so there's the cost of like what we charge through the commissary system, and then there's the cost of what it would cost to provide, which would be lower than that.
We'll get
So
that to you.
That would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Zach and then Commissioner Bowman.
Just quickly, I would be interested in knowing if there are different police departments that are not using Narcon.
Well, the last I heard from Willie Brooks was they were gonna offer it to every police agency in the county. Now, whether each agency, and the training is it's like less than 2 hours. So some department is not taking advantage of that. I'm not aware of that.
So they would know that.
But Mr. Brooks told us that they're offering it to everybody, and the supply is not an issue.
Okay, because I have one city that uses it all the time, and they commend officers at their city council meeting, and the stories are very dramatic and very frequent, unfortunately. So the more that we can do to promote this.
And unfortunately, we need more of it now, because some of the things that we're running into, the fentanyl, the carfentanil, sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 doses on one person at a time.
Wow. And then if there's anything that we can do to support the state legislation here, pieces, supportive resolution here to support, those are very common sense suggestions that could make a difference. So if there's something that we can do as the Board of Commissioners supporting those lobbying efforts, please speak out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Bowman.
I just would like to first kind of start the question with a statement. One, notably, what I've noticed in terms of your work with the city of Pontiac and many of the surrounding communities, is that you work towards identifying, addressing some of the social determinants that bring individuals into your peer view. Specifically, the PAL League, Police Athletic League, is something that's been introduced as of recent. Community policing, improving relationships and interaction with our law enforcement. And so I think that is commendable and prudent in terms of the direction that we need to go with law enforcement and community relations. My inquiry is related to health, and specifically with inmates. I have some curiosity in terms of how health services and health services are facilitated to the inmates. I noticed there was a line item for hospital cost recovery. So in scenarios where there is medical treatment or services required, how is that initiated? Is it a contracted services? I guess that's really kind of the guise of the question.
Yeah, we contract with a private firm to run our clinic, and it's CCS, Correct Care Solutions. The contract runs about $5.4 million a year. It actually was a huge savings to the sheriff's office when we implemented that several years ago. So our costs were running about $7 million to provide the same service. So we're very pleased with it. When you talk about hospital cost recovery, What that is if an inmate happens to go to the hospital, we get a bill, and if the inmate happens to have some money, then of course we attempt to recover whatever we can. We do the same thing for any sentenced inmate that goes through our system. Excuse me. We try to recover our costs whenever available.
And to that point, speaking of legislation, Commissioner Zach has left, but that's another piece of legislation that we're pursuing that certainly we would like the Commission's help on getting passed as well. We have had individual situations where someone comes in for typically a misdemeanor charge, or sometimes a sentence of 90 days or more. And we had one individual that came in, and very shortly after they came in, I think she had a brain aneurysm and was basically vegetized, and we had to have hospital watch because the judge wouldn't release that sentence. So we had to put deputies on overtime around the clock to watch this individual. It ended up, I think, $100,000 in that case.
Yes.
So, we're seeking legislation for compassionate release under the county guideline. The state has that, and so the cost implications to us and the taxpayers are huge. I mean, we've had cases I think go as high as $300,000,
yes,
haven't we? Where somebody has something happen medically, and because they're in our custody and the judge won't back off the sentence or have any change in the sentencing, we end up having to 24/7 on overtime have somebody watch a hospital bed for somebody that really isn't dangerous. And so we're seeking legislation on that, and we think that that would be helpful. To the medical care, I think, we've seen problems across the country, but we have a great in-house team. Our folks, our staff integrate and operate well with the contract provider. That's a testimony to Major Snary and his team. I can't knock hard enough, but a lot of facilities around the country have a lot of problems in their medical care and suicides. But our great staff does a superior job, I think, in classification and observation, and then the team in the corrections sees that, and they're constantly integrating with the medical setting, calling for observation or calling for clearance of an inmate by the medical team, and so they really work hand in glove. And the private contract also gave us a capitated cost so that we had a predictable number. We didn't used to have that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the sheriff? If not, thank you very much for.
Yeah, one thing I would say that, just one other thing.
As being from the legislature, when you keep talking, it invites more questions.
This is really an attaboy for our deputies. This is a fairly recent thing that happened. We're in a building that's protected by deputies that, and some of the stuff they see or face, you wouldn't think it's necessarily the case, but even in this building, they have a challenging job. Just recently, they had a case where a guy was standing in front of a judge, and there's no polite way of saying this, reached into his pants and got handfuls of feces and put it all over his face and head. And the deputies, I thought, showed not only great restraint, but professionalism in how they handled the situation. And, he wanted to stay that way through the trial. And he was self-representing, so it was an interesting situation. But the deputies, here in the jail and on the road, face some interesting things, and I think it's important sometimes for y'all to know that.
Great.
So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Jerry, you're going to wrap it up for us. Yeah. We did pretty good. We got kind of carried away.
Hey, I don't even know how to follow that.
Okay.
Hugh. Okay, so they put bio here on here. And so
Okay, Jerry. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought what I'd do here is you've heard a pretty extensive rundown of the budget to this point, starting in July with the budget overview. And then on the first day of the finance hearings, Lee Sonkis and her team went through a pretty comprehensive overview. In terms of the county executive department, as a department, what you have around the room are the directors and managers. If you have specific questions for them, is why they're here, to show you they are of course interested. Speaking on behalf of the county executive administration unit, which consists of the deputy county executives, their support staff, risk management, reporting up through corporation counsel and corporation counsel. The budget before you is essentially a status quo budget in terms of, you did touch the corporation counsel earlier in the summer, but there are no new programs beyond that that are reflected in here. Of course, you've had a pretty lengthy briefing from Mr. Bertolini last meeting in terms of what's going on with the IT and what the programs in the budget. And our new IT director, Mr. Thames, is here. If you have further questions on that, you heard from Mark this morning on the capital programs. And again, they stand ready to answer any further questions. And then for all the other county executive units, the economic development's here, public services is here, health is here, etc. We stand ready to answer your questions, and I thought that's the best way to proceed. You tell us what you're interested in terms of specifics, and we will endeavor to answer your questions.
Okay. So, did you want to introduce the directors, or you want to wait for questions to directors?
I thought we could.
Okay. My two main questioners, Shelley and Woodward, we'll go to them. Shelley, do you have?
Yeah, well, you know, Jerry, library continuations could do better.
Oh, I'm sorry, wasn't I? I'm sure they could do better. But the reality is, you know, as long as you're willing to pay on the membership dues and publication side for more LexisNexis accounts and for the IT staff and for the servers and what have you, we will do better.
Okay.
And someday I'll even give up my books.
Oh.
Yeah. But
okay.
I've been a lawyer for 35 years or 36 years, whatever it is. And the idea of having 6 computer pages open somewhere on that box in front of me versus having 6 books on my desk is really different.
I get it. I understand, but try.
I know how to do it. It's just that I lose track easier. No, we like to go paperless to the extent we can, and we're working towards that. But you know, it's easy for us to forget because we're so used to technology that there are large segments of our population and staff that are not computer literate, don't have access to the IT and all these models, and it's essential for them to have that access too. So we're chipping away at it as a county, but there's always going to be a core need for some written documents, I believe.
Okay, thank you. That was my one question this morning. I have another one, but I think he's going to ask it.
Okay, but Dave, I'm going to go to Crawford before I go to Dave. Go ahead, Crawford.
Thank you. We've got a beautiful new pet adoption center about ready to be opened.
Yes.
Is it going to be fully and adequately staffed?
Well, I guess it depends on who you talk to. We have a proposal from Mr. Gatt as it relates to some veterinarian and vet techs and perhaps some support staff. And I know the HR folks have recommended to us as lead to the medical staff to support that, which we'll be proceeding with. Not so sure on the affordability of the administrative assistance. The proposal that Mr. Gatt has put forward to us internally still is to cover that by an increase in fees. On one hand, the fees haven't been raised in about 25 years. On the other hand, if you do percentages, which is so often the questions we get from this table, it's a very significant percentage increase. And you know, I forget, it's $7.50 or something, $12 or $15. Yeah, $1. So in the real world, maybe $12 is good, and it's certainly competitive with around. But yeah, you'll be hearing from us. Part of it is I want to see how it operates with staff and how creative they get. The vets will be here for, and vet techs.
Funds available in the general fund without significantly raising fees?
not without use of fund balance.
I mean, can you move things around the general fund? The honest answer is you can always move things around. There's other discretionary programs that we can choose not to do. There's, you can reduce the fund balance and for now and for the next couple of years, that could be fine. But of course, remember, our strategy is multi-year and multi-view, and we try and make sure that we can confine the cost of operations to the services that are actually being performed to the extent they're reasonable. So I think this is a high hill for a high stepper? I don't really think it is, but sometimes you don't get innovation unless you force it. And so I want to see the distribution of current staff in the new facility before we decide everything that we have to meet. But I can assure you that we will be here with requests once we're convinced that it's the best way to go.
Well, I'm glad you're going to continue to look at it, because I would hate to see it not fully staffed to its potential.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Woodward.
I just had clarification on that we were talking about the fee, the dog registration fees or license
fees, right?
License fees. And I guess and related to that, I mean, I know that it's probably the most, well, when the census is happening, the calls do come. And, but I have to actually compliment everyone over at the Pet Adoption Center. I mean, it's required. It's the law. And it's the right thing to do, and I think the staff that's out there doing it is incredibly professional. I know that there's some temporary people doing it. I think it's good as one send that message back that it's the right thing to do. It's important. I think it's also personally not unreasonable to ensure the care on the opposite end, particularly as it hopefully will increasingly become a county asset that more and more communities take full advantage of, even if they're geographically far away, to figure out how to address those needs. So thank you, Commissioner Crawford, for bringing that up. My first question, kind of economic development. I think one thing, in the budget that kind of came up, dry goods and clothing for economic development.
What page?
272. I'm perplexed by this.
You just can't have.
I mean, is it
a lack of
food?
dry goods.
Or clothing?
Irene?
I'm just trying to think.
Matthew?
Jerry got a new suit?
Matt?
Matt, all right, Matt.
I needed a new suit.
Come, was there an application? So why don't you come up so we can all hear you?
You probably have more questions.
I do have, yes.
Matt, it's on the screen right behind you too.
Yes, and I've got a printed copy here. Commissioner Woodward, thank you for your question. Matthew Gibb for those that don't know me. Dry goods and clothing vary from everything from promotional activities where our Main Street program may be doing programming events like the National Main Street Conference, of acquiring shirts and other things and T-shirts. Our Tech 248 event might be getting pens and pencils. Our Oakland Next event, of course, as we're doing those programs in the high schools, we're providing T-shirts and things like that for the kids, and so that all encompasses into that area where we buy.
So these are promotional materials that we
items
are
that
pushing
support
out there
enhance
to
the programs.
showcase
Yeah.
and stuff
Like
like
for
that.
Manufacturing Day, Manufacturing Day, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
For the students.
We can just call it promotional materials.
We could.
We should.
Dry goods
It's
has
just a different meaning.
We're not stocking up on beans or anything.
Got it. No, or I was just like,
waiting for the flood.
The future economy. I don't know. We might come back to the first economy. So I guess around economic development, and we do a lot of celebrating. Some very creative initiatives that we have underway. I guess I'm interested. Things are changing so fast in terms of the opportunities that are out there, the jobs of tomorrow. I often, when I'm talking with educators, they're often trying to educate a workforce for jobs that don't exist yet, for that we don't actually know the full scope of what they're going to do.
You're right.
And I think from an economic development strategy, it's exactly. You run up against that, arguably even at a faster click. So what and I guess I am asking this from a budget perspective. So we've got programs that we've been running. Sometimes it's easy to get running like the same program the way we've always run the program. So I'm asking to the nimbleness of our economic strategy. but what are we doing, and maybe what do we need to do more? And thinking from a resource point of view, to be able to respond to this fast-changing economy, and how to be the catalyst to really take advantage of the talent pool, which frankly, in my opinion, is the absolute best asset we're gonna sell something, the people that are here.
So a couple of things. I'll start. Irene will certainly correct me or fill in the blanks. You know, one, we are very agile as a county. This Board of Commissioners and the administration has been extremely supportive of that agility. I'll give you a couple of quick examples, Commissioner. So our Tech 248 program, which is certainly ingrained within our budget, it's part of our small business center and part of the one-stop shop. And so the budget dollars that are allocated to there are running the programs of the one-stop shop and the business center through that Tech 248. We recently have altered the way that we've brought programs now to focus on the ability to educate employers on how to do apprenticeships within that tech and IT world. And so what we do, instead of thinking of how can we throw additional budget resources at it, let's be agile in the way that we strategically deliver our services to bring them up to speed. And so instead of Tech 248 simply being that high-end C-level networking business-to-business peer-to-peer opportunity, it also now is doing exercises and training on how to do apprenticeship. For pipeline work, we created Oakland Next, which is an initiative out of the Business Roundtable. Oakland Next arguably is that dry good and clothing line, because it is getting young people the idea of how they can be excited about opportunities that they don't know exist. And so we're drawing on entrepreneurs throughout the county to assist us in a speakers bureau and different ways that we're presenting information and materials. That's very easily absorbable into the type of budget we have, because by doing that we are, I don't want to say we're diminishing or getting rid of things that maybe are antiquated or out of pace, but certainly certain things are. The way that we're delivering the Emerging Sectors Program and others, we create agility through the way that we focus on the drive for the type of companies that we're going after and the way that we're introducing those to the young people. And so for us, it's not a need for additional dollars so much it's your continuing support that when we create agility and say that we're changing the scope of the way that we're going to deliver something. I'm here many times explaining some exception reports in that regard of the way that we're sponsoring things or the way that we're bringing in different resources that we can fully build within our budget. That's the agility that our department really relies upon, more so than a financial agility. But if you want to add anything to that.
No, and you're right on with, you know, the talent needs. Since Oakland County reached full employment at 5%, we have a mantra internally in our department: workforce development is economic development right now for us. So we're putting a lot of our resources and our time into workforce development type issues and programs. For example, we're launching 4 info sessions for the governor's $15 million skilled trades training fund to educate employers that, you know, it's not just welding and CNC machining that we need workforce in. Healthcare, Beaumont participated in that grant program last year. IT can be apprenticeship. Matt talked about Tech 248. Our Tech 248 meetup next Tuesday is focused on how an IT company can create an apprenticeship within their own company, within their own entity. So we are on top of what trends are happening, and we're trying to educate our employers. And we've never worked closer with our universities, our community college, and our K-12 school system like we have in these last few years, because and we feel that's our role, is to be that conduit between education and industry.
And close the answer with this one. We have asked within this budget the creation of a new position. It's within our small business center. It's a position focused specifically on commercialization and the business consulting that's necessary in that new generation of taking entities from startup, from idea, IP, through the basis of the commercialization process. That position will not only work within our business center, will help our international work, it'll help our business development team. It's going to be a very hybrid position and very, very important position for us. And so it's part of our request that has made it to this stage of the budget. And so when you say, you know, additional resources that are attacking that new economy, for us, that's a very, very critical part of our strategy, Irene and myself, of leading the group.
And from, I guess, from the economic development, because workforce development is another department, right?
Correct.
It's in economic
It's in economic
development.
development, okay.
Which helps tremendously. It's not the case around the state, and we're a model actually, because our business development team with the workforce development team work hand in hand to work with our employers. So it's a model that's highlighted across the state and across the country.
Great. Well, and along this workforce development strategy, yes, we can celebrate, full unemployment, but there still is the chronic unemployment, particularly
Absolutely.
those that, and as I understand it, it's a disproportionate older audience that was displaced out of the job and has struggled to find a way back into jobs that earn anywhere near what they were displaced out of. And so like the long-term unemployed or employment that's been achieved as a result of maybe short-term or cobbling together part-time work and everything. So I guess as it relates to that, like it would seem to me it requires a unique strategy to address the long-term unemployed from a workforce development perspective than what we currently have. And I don't think the tools that we have available can address this, because frankly, I don't think in a significant time do we have such a relatively large population that falls into that. At least I know state stats, don't know specific Oakland County stats, but I imagine it's significant.
Well, the county's we're not overly burdened by that number. I mean, it's not as large here in Oakland County as you would think from a regional perspective. Certainly our neighbors to the south and other parts have a much greater burden of the structurally unemployed aspect, but we're no strangers to it. There's probably
Or
about...
underemployed. Well, it's bigger than you realize.
Yeah, and we understand that. But I would say that the workforce development team, Jennifer Llewellyn, the manager of that group, is probably the most regarded workforce development professional in the state of Michigan. With her push, with the Workforce Development Board itself, we've convened a task force. The task force is going to be doing just like a 90-day, really, they want to get it done by the end of the year, like a 90-day process of really doing a hyper-analysis of the manner in which services are delivered through our Michigan Works agencies. Michigan Works is the principal driving force that we partner with to deliver those types of services that you're talking about, Commissioner. And so within the next 3 months, that task force is intended to report both to the Workforce Development Board, of which County Executive Patterson has both the appointment powers and the oversight of that through our office. So we're hopeful within the next 90 days, by the end of the year, that the workforce development agencies, the Michigan Works offices with Jennifer's leadership and the task force itself will be making substantive recommendations as to how we can streamline and coordinate the service modeling that's coming forward. Now, the one thing it's a little bit of a gap is in the skilled trained workers funds. We still have a gap, whether it's a young person or an old person, exploring the opportunity of retraining opportunities within skilled trades and bringing those notices forward. But I would tell you that the task force has been charged specifically with those types of questions, the delivery of gaps where we could have resources that are within the Michigan Work Services right now that maybe are not being expended in an appropriate manner. Our direction and goal is that will be vetted very, very carefully within the next 90 days to 120 days. I anticipate that you'll be very much aware of that's going on in the Workforce Development Board. So we're anticipating first of the year to be really looking at the structure of the way services are delivered in a way that's answering your question.
And so we say in 90 days we will have those recommendations, or?
That's the plan.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted to add on, we do have a lot of programs to help that population. We are focusing on that population right now because, again, we have positions that we can't fill right now. So we're looking at where can we bring more people into the workforce. And that is a population that obviously is, we're focused on, as well as youth too, 18 to 24, disengaged youth. We're trying to reach out to them. We have programs at the federal level that we administer here, like on-the-job training. We just got a grant, the whole region, from the Workforce Intelligence Network that's partnering with OCC to offer robotics training for dislocated workers. So there are programs there. The challenge is, how do we get those people into the Michigan Works offices?
Right. Yeah.
That's
I think
a key thing.
I think that's exactly what I'm trying to get at. And we've got, program after program after program, and whether it's meeting the right person or even if it's the right appropriate program to be able to do it. So I'm happy to hear about the task force. Around the apprenticeship stuff, and this is like I had myself, I know the chairman of the board and others, those who have a great desire or focus, particularly on the apprenticeships and trying to create pathways into it. One of the barriers is getting people into those programs. I've opened up some preliminary conversations with some of the trades and looking at Oakland schools, and based on what you're saying, I'm hopeful that they'll be willing to explore greater partnerships to streamline students in high school and moving them through so that they graduate not just with their high school diploma, but they can, with some of the entry-level certification necessary to get, to take on these jobs that pay $20, $25 an hour, and then work their way up so that, I mean, to good paying jobs long term. And so those are the types of things I'm looking for, the direct partnership. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to come with a price tag. And I think, so I look forward to bringing forth an ask to you.
It's not just price tag, because obviously we work very closely with the superintendent over at schools, Dr. Cook Robinson, and her main issue is for the union apprenticeships, you have to be 18 years old. She was able to work with the construction union to get it reduced to 17 years old, which then gives our students a competitive advantage to start earning that credit.
That problem can be fixed.
That's one of her main concerns. That'll help us get more students, and that wonderful.
But it's more than that too, because it's as much a public education. It's sustaining. There's just costs to doing that. I mean, the cost per student that, frankly, a lot of our stretch budgets, education budgets, can't do it. So if it's worthwhile, again, it checks a bunch of boxes. It would seem to me it's something that is worth sharing and figuring out how to get these type of programs off the ground. I'm not saying we be the permanent funder for it, but be the catalyst to help make it, get funded. So look forward to working with you on that.
Absolutely.
I had last economic development, and then I'm going to shift over to health.
Okay.
So this is a sore subject for some of us. So the local economy, investment in the local economy, support of buy local initiatives. I know that I was very much involved years ago, and it sits there, and I don't see enough in that space. So it's everything from the cultivating and growing the talent of the home-based business. It's supporting the local economy. There are a lot of programs that are being spearheaded, and some commissioners just recently, how to take part in our purchasing process and maybe get a piece of the $100 million work.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, I've been disappointed by the lack of plan about how to use those, some resources that we designated to say, hey, there's an opportunity to really take this forward. And there's a lot of great research around the country. If we look to the West on the, Buy Local, which I happen to know the executive director, and I've known her for many, many years, and she was just starting out when I kind of jumped into the local economy movement. It has taken off like wildfire. There is a tangible, measurable economic impact that is, frankly, what I like to call is the flavor of a community. We do a lot of great programs with corporations that are headquartered in places that I will never visit, and it's great. They're all, and I'm not saying that or this. What I am saying is that we need to be doing more there. We need to make that a focus. I don't think it gets the attention.
So, Commissioner,
the Main Street program. Let me just finish it. The Main Street program, great, but we haven't. The original plan was to come forth with a plan on how to use those, and I know we spent some of those resources that, but we haven't. And in terms of a buy local initiative, that was the framework of having some of those resources set away. A plan has never come forward, and so I'm disappointed. I would like a plan to come forward, or I'm going to write the plan.
Okay. I just wanted to, I hear your concern. We do have the Oakland Business Connect, which is our B2B directory. We have a marketing plan that we issue to both large corporations and small corporations, startup businesses, to be on that directory. And then we have a marketing campaign that pushes to buy local by directing people to that directory. So that when you're looking for a local vendor, when we're on retention calls, when we're talking to businesses at events, Chamber of Commerce speeches, we always talk, if you're looking to buy local, go to oaklandbusinessconnect.com. And there are other resources too for those entrepreneurs. So we have that. We also partner with a lot of events. A lot of chambers do buy local events. Other organizations like the National Retail Association does buy local events. We partner with them under the Oakland Business Connect brand. So we're putting on, the only thing we're not doing is putting events on ourselves for that.
We said we partner with, we're investing in them, sponsoring them.
We're sponsoring them, yep. And then last year we also launched our own Buy Local for Saturday after Thanksgiving, Shop Small, and it was the first time we did that, and that was a resounding success, where we actually worked with our DDAs, our chambers of commerce, our local communities, and we promoted. We got a couple sponsors to give away some gifts, and we promoted people to buy local in their downtowns on that Saturday, the Shop Small Saturday. So that was a big campaign that was successful, and we are going to do that again this year. So we are doing a lot of that activity. And if there's other opportunities that you see where we can partner with, please bring them forward to us. We're very interested in those.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have for economic development.
Okay. Let's go, anybody else, and then you can go back to, we'll go back to Woodward. But Zach, you have a question?
Oh, it's not for economic development.
Oh, no, but okay, for anything. Okay,
Yeah,
economic development's off the hook right now. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no, we're here.
Helene, what do you have?
Okay, so under county exec, I had some questions for human resources line items. It's on.
Here's Jordy. What page are you on?
I'm on page 226 in the big book. There's a big, the second one, legal services. There's a big disparity in the actual and the budgeted piece. Amended in 2017, especially of going from 190 to 315,000. This is for legal. What's going on?
This was a carry forward from the prior year. So if we anticipate that we may end up in 312 arbitration, there may be some additional costs. So that money was set aside in, I don't want to say anticipation, but in preparation if that were where we were headed.
So we do know, that's, okay. And then, the professional services, is that our consultation, our?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. And then psychological testing, do we do that as part of recruiting? Or
Yes, for the
position?
sheriff's office.
What?
For the sheriff's office, for the hiring of deputies.
Thank you. That's it for human resources, but I have another question for public services. Well, and I do wanna echo Commissioner Crawford's concern about running the new building. And wanna make sure the Animal Care Center, make sure that we are running the best practice model and staffing it appropriately. So I concur with that, but when I have, it's on page 254, general purpose public services. I was trying to understand what professional services is in, page 254, it's 731458. What is in that line item?
Professional services.
Yep, that's it. It's general public services.
The budget rolls up for the whole department, and then the subsequent pages are the individual divisions under that, so it's under, MSU expansion.
I can help with that. As you'll recall, we've been trying to shift positions as they become vacant county positions to a contract with Michigan State University. So that's
So
been
now it's
building up
going
over
into
time,
professional
right?
services versus other
Exactly.
employee expenses. That makes sense. I just couldn't see that. And that's, you answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, Dave, did you wanna go back to health?
The health, yes. Just the health budget. My questions are broadly, that doesn't fit into a line item. Okay. So, yeah. So, I mean, one of my, questions that kind of all the incredible work and the reach, and I continue to be in awe of all the services that we can provide, and I think in a very lean way to so many people, particularly vulnerable communities, low-income communities, and the sort. And And I understand that family planning services are not administered through the county.
Correct.
And so how does that get done? Do we send off those resources? Because that's different in surrounding counties and around the state, it's done differently.
That's true. But more and more public health agencies are getting out of family planning, to be honest with you. There are a number of agencies within the county that fill that role, and we maintain strong relationships with them. We make referrals to them. We recently went through accreditation, and because that is a mandated service, mapped it out for them about where these agencies are located throughout the county, and they were completely satisfied that it's very well covered.
So do the resources go directly to those entities, or do they come through here and then we ship it?
They do not. They do not come through our office.
Okay, so like so the mandated and the funding for Title $10 never makes it to Oakland.
Well, we receive no Title X funding.
And there's no gaps. I mean, do we monitor? I guess like the mandate that happens, like who's held accountable to ensuring that those things are done?
As I said, that's part of our accreditation, that we had to show evidence that that was adequately covered, and so we do our homework to make sure that that is the case. And as I said, we are in constant communication with these agencies to make sure that those services are being covered. And actually, we have quite a number.
Right. There's a way to get a list of like the agencies that are doing this,
yes,
and,
we do
and
have
the number
that.
of people
we
served.
Have it mapped, yeah.
And a map and everything. I would love to see that map, because the reason I bring this up, and it's probably no surprise. I mean, obviously in this this national healthcare conversation and other rhetoric, whether it's at the state or at the national level, that some of those Title $10, at risk, and that could disrupt the delivery of these services in our area, particularly in my neck of the woods. And so I guess like making sure that we're on top of that, and then where the need is there, like where do they flow? Do we help? Do we have the capacity to help shepherd people to other services and be able to get the core services that are needed, mandated, and appropriate? And I guess that's the question. Like if funding became restricted to certain agencies that are, delivering a lot of these core services that are essential, what happens? Do we help facilitate that? So is there, as a result, is there a cost to us to figure out how to help manage that, or are people just left on their own to get those Title X services? Figure it out.
No, they're not left on their own. As I said, we refer to these agencies in terms of concerns about Title X funding. That's not their only source of funding in these agencies, and so, especially with Medicaid expansion, that there's been a tremendous amount of funding that's been available through that. So where one goes up, the other comes down, and I think we've seen that steady opportunities for services are available. They're mostly concentrated down in where we have highest concentrations of population.
Right. And so, has it been our experience that it's been reported in other agencies that Medicaid expansion has resulted in an increase of health services to a very low-income population? Should Medicaid expansion go away or get decreased? Where do these people go? Do we pick up the slack, and what's the marginal health benefit?
I think it depends on what service we're talking about, and so there are many healthcare providers throughout Oakland County. In fact, there's a number of ways that Oakland County goes through a lot of scrutiny and a lot of assessments about what is available in terms of access to care. Around a lot of different services, and Oakland County stacks up very, very well compared to other counties in that regard. So, and even when there wasn't Medicaid expansion, there was a tremendous amount of services taking place here by a number of agencies through many different funding sources.
Right. No, I agree with that. It's one thing that I brought up in terms of, and I avoiding trying to get into a big hot political discussion about Obamacare, but in terms of understanding the people who are delivering care, and if that care is then decreased substantially or gone, that's gonna put a burden on our health systems, it's gonna put a burden, I mean, me, that I'm most concerned about the people who are receiving that care today. And it's, and frankly, the best place for them to turn to is their public health department because of, I mean, it's the open door to be able to take on that. Can we handle that burden, especially once we've gotten people into medical homes?
Right.
The idea to get people to medical homes, like how to be able to sustain that care long term.
And we've always been very good at that work, and we're very prepared to answer those questions and help people find those sources. Our FQHC is a strong partner. FQHCs are strong partners with us, and that has also been a tremendous resource for that.
Right. I mean, the last question, the health division stuff, I've talked about this before. Very happy to see the Food Policy Council moving forward, particularly as it relates to food insecurity issues. And the health division has been a leader in this space, and I think it's eye-opening to a lot of, people where food insecurity exists.
Right.
Particularly, out county, that it's a real particular issue. Other than pulling people together to, I guess, share struggles and try to develop some shared strategies, my understanding that there is, there might be resources out there to help support this and sustain this. Is there a strategy to go out and do that? I don't think it's maybe necessarily baked into this budget, but, to run these and sustain these, and how to help support it, I think there are resources out there. Are we applying for the, I think we got a little bit of grants to do that. I think there are more to ramp that up because I think it fits directly. Food insecurity issues, but it has, there's an economic development component too that I think it can play a role in.
Yeah, let her answer the question. Is there a strategy? Yeah.
Yes, there is. No, we definitely are working on that. The Food Policy Council looks at the full stream of food within the county, and it is, it's access to food. It's also looking at alignment of resources. There is a tremendous, public health works very hard at pulling together our partners in the community to collaborate together. There's a lot we can do to leverage resources and align our own individual programs and services. The Food Policy Council is working very hard right now to do assessment work in the community, as well as determining what partners are doing what in the community, and they're in their infancy and they are starting to apply with the help of the health division for various grants and funding opportunities that will help them increase access for food. And that's not just that. Food Policy Council, we've been doing that for a long time with HOP and with Healthy Pontiac We Can. We've had a number of initiatives over the years that are really increasing access.
And
ask the question and then.
Yes. Well, I'm trying to leave it, all right. But my last question, and it'll be very, very simple, is so we have talked about, visiting nurses. Particularly for new parents and everything. I know we've got some programs that go into people's homes and helping support that, but I understand that it's limited based on staff capacity, what have you. Is there plans to expand that? And there obviously will be costs to that, to be able to make certain that, particularly new moms, but lactation consultants and a series of other things to breastfeeding. Is there a way to make that available to more people?
Well, we have risk criteria, and so we are very focused on those moms that low income, generally Medicaid eligible, high risk populations. That's where we really focus our efforts. There are a lot of other programs in the community that are available to moms that have different economic needs, different types of insurances. We are really focused on those high-risk babies, high-risk moms, high-risk families. And I believe that's where we belong. Public health nurses in visitation also do things with the homeless community. Our visiting nurses are also doing things with the P2P program that DHHS has, where we have some severe truancy issues in high-risk populations. We've applied a public health nurse there that's also in those homes. Children's Village, we've applied a public health visiting nurse there. to work with families before children leave Children's Village so that we can have the most healthy, stable environment possible when the child leaves and we can stay with that family. Our visiting nurses also do things with something called Nurturing Parenting Program, which is a tremendously successful program. Usually has a slight waiting list, but I'm just trying to tell you that the community really embraces it. And that's also for high-risk families, teaching parents parenting skills. We have 80 different modules that are 16 weeks long each, where it's very intensive visitation with that family, teaching them one of those 80 modules to learn what is a proper expectation for a parent and a child of that age group. Really, even getting down on the floor, teaching parents how to play with children. It's eligible for a parent of any child 0 to 18 years of age, covers a big spectrum of care. So we've kind of diversified what our public health nurses in the field are doing, but it's always, always focused on that high-risk family to help them be more successful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for indulging me. Thank you.
Is there any more questions for health? Yes, go ahead.
Okay,
Kelly.
here's a question on the budget, okay?
Okay.
On page 233, line item 630525. I don't get that line. I don't even know what it means.
Chargebacks for the
Help me.
Insurance?
I'm sorry.
It's a negative number?
The difference
Yeah.
between what is
What are-
charged and what is paid by insurance?
Yeah, it's a charge, and initial payment, difference between charge and initial payment, what is, help me, Lori.
We bill the insurance company a certain amount, a gross amount, and this shows what they don't pay us.
Okay, so it's a
It's
write-off,
contract, yeah,
basically.
it's an offset.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to say one other quick thing. You know, anyone in Oakland County, if they have no insurance at all, no Medicare, no Medicaid, no nothing, can go right across the street here or to several other clinics called FQHC, Federally Qualified Health Clinics. They are available. They will treat, and some of us have been in them, they will treat any single person if they have no money, free of charge, period. Help them get insurance if they need it, or help care with Medicare or Medicaid, but they are available. So that's the other thing I wanted to say. And then when do we put something on the list?
Oh, we can do that right now.
Okay.
And Go ahead, which,
I'm just curious what that
Let's
last
see if anybody else
budget
has any more
implication was.
questions, though.
okay.
Okay.
Anybody else have a question for anybody with the exec? I mean, we have over 50 people here to help us answer questions. if we need.
Yeah, well, just, I
Go
mean,
ahead.
just, I mean, on the point, like, my line of questioning is all related to, budget amendment proposals that are in their draft stage, so
Okay.
they'll be coming,
At the wrap-up, you will have amendments for
even
us.
before then.
Okay, okay, Commissioner Top, you have
Well, I don't
something
have
to
an
add to a
amendment, but
list?
I would like to have perhaps staff draft an amendment so that we can go into the heating and cooling system and figure out what's going on in this room. This has been,
You know, in the legislature, they used to turn the heat down about 11 o'clock at night, so that.
they turn,
Yeah.
whatever. This is almost unbearable, that somebody has to wear a pair of gloves to keep their hands warm.
Okay,
And
is
drink
there
hot tea
anything,
and everything else.
is there anything else to come be questioning the executive? Jerry, I appreciate you
Chris?
bringing in, I counted over 50 people here to help
Do a budget
answer
amendment.
questions and listen to all the comments that we had. So, with that, if there's no other business to come before the Finance Committee, I declare the meeting adjourned without objection.
$400 million.